Hey, what's going on, guys? And welcome back to yet another episode of We've Seen It podcast, episode number 36 this week. As always, I'm Cam.
And I'm Jimmy.
And let's just get right into the episode, guys. And welcome back, guys. Welcome back to episode number 36. Welcome back to another sick week of anime. Jimmy, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing all right. A little rundown with everything going on, but
I always say this like
expected.
I always say this like I don't talk to you throughout the week. You know, like this is the first time.
No.
Like we finished the podcast. I'm like, now shoo, I'll see you next week. We typically play games like every night anyway. So, but you know, we try not to talk about the anime though.
True. We've been doing pretty good about not spoiling each other on our opinions. So
we did mention last night we talked about the Demon Academy one a little bit, but that's because we're not talking about it weekly, so it's allowed.
True. Yeah, I mean, that one we were just laughing that it took them 5 episodes to get to the end of the first season and the second season.
Yeah, which was very confusing, but you know, I'm sure they had a good reason for doing that. I think that they just wanted like a cliffhanger for season 1 to be more hype. But then they're like, we don't want to go right into that cliffhanger though. Like, let's take a little while to build that up.
Yeah, well, they still had a bunch of source material to work through, and I think the end of the first season even said like in a year later or some crap like that. So
yeah, it's just like, to me, I don't really understand. When I first went into the first episode of season 2, I was like so hyped because I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see like, you know, this storyline play out. And then immediately I was so confused after watching the first episode. I think I literally messaged you. I was like, Jimmy, I'm very disappointed with episode 1. I wanted this storyline. And then little did I know it'd be like 5 episodes, but at least we got to it. So.
Oh yeah, definitely.
The other big thing that came out this week was Castlevania. I know that you haven't seen the Castlevania animated series.
No, that's on my to-watch list. It's very high on it. I just haven't got around to it. So
I have seen. Yeah, I haven't seen the newest season that just came out because, as I said, it's come out I think like 3 or 4 days ago. Just because, you know, as we mention every single week, the anime that is on our weekly watch list takes priority. So you know, that plus like video games plus just trying to, you know, it's nice outside these days. It's almost summer, so you know, going outside, doing activities, stuff like that. But I think this week, since now we have all the way till I think Friday again till Kumo Desu comes out, so we have a few days. So I think I'm going to use that time to crush out the newest season of Castlevania. I've heard mixed opinions on it, but I'm excited to, you know, judge for myself.
True. Honestly, my priority is going to be probably Shadow House, catch up on that, and then take it from there. So
there are a lot of things I want to catch up on too. Like Shadow House is one of them. I haven't watched the last like 3 episodes of Don't Toy With Me Nagatoro-san, which I want to watch. I haven't even remember the Full Dive RPG on Funimation?
Yeah. I watched the first episode and just never picked it up after
I watched
that.
the first 3, but I haven't seen it. I think there's been 2 or 3 since then. I haven't caught up, so
maybe episode 5 or 6 right now. So
yeah, there's a couple little shows like that I want to catch up on. I still want to start Odd Taxi. A lot of people are mentioning it.
I know it looked really interesting. I just haven't got to it.
Yeah, I remember seeing the original trailer for it at I think it was the Crunchyroll Awards. They had a trailer for it originally, and I was like, "What the hell is this?" And then obviously we talked about it briefly on our what anime is coming out in the spring.
Yeah,
and that was on there, but I haven't watched it yet just because we've had so much. But this week might be a good catching up week.
True, and I think for Odd Taxi, I think the summary just didn't do it justice like a lot of shows.
Yeah, I mean the summaries. To be fair, on the summaries on that website, like there's some summaries that are written by the actual show. There's some summaries that are written by like someone from the website, so they're really kind of hit or miss as to how much they explain.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
some of them are just really generic, and then it's like, wait, this has nothing to do with it.
So to be fair, like To Your Eternity is one from this season where the description was not at all like what the actual show is, but the description wasn't bad. It's just the description like painted a picture of a different story.
It basically summarized the first episode, and that was it.
Well, not like so multiple things. So I remember someone in the comments said that like they're pretty sure this takes place in a fantasy world, but I think now that we're a few episodes in, I think that I can probably agree it seems mostly fantasy with like some realistic traits to some of the civilizations and stuff like that from like previous times, but not all put together at the same timeline. But yeah, in the description, it's like a boy and his wolf travel North America. I'm like, you know what? That is not what happened. So.
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of argue like maybe
did they mean a boy is a wolf and travels North America? Like,
I mean, yeah.
I mean, it has elements that are right, but yeah, it's definitely that website, or I'm pretty sure most websites, when you get a description off them, you can only, you can't judge a book by a cover, a classic. You can't judge an anime by a description.
That is really true. You have to give it at least a couple episodes to wow you before you can really,
especially with like very different or like weird series, something like Odd Taxi. It reminds me of like a Gretzko. you try to sell that to someone. You're like, yeah, it's like a cartoon with like it's like a Japanese cartoon more than like an anime with like an angry character. It would be hard to describe to someone.
Yeah,
but a lot of
you have to kind of just sit them down in front of it. It's like watch and then form an opinion.
Yeah,
that's all there is.
But yeah, so it'll be a good catch up week. Obviously, we still have all the regular shows we have to watch this week too. There's no like, we're not at that point of the year yet where we're getting any missed weeks. I don't think, or no holidays that I know of. So we still have all those regular ones, but at least they're not till later in the week. So
true,
because we have one comes out. Kumo comes out Friday. My Hero, Vivy 86. Am I missing? And Tokyo Revengers. Tokyo Revengers
are
all
they're all Saturday.
And then Higehiro and To Your Eternity Monday. Yes, that's it. Yeah, so it's very much very late week into early next week. So for this whole next like 4 or 5 days or like that, I guess we just have time to catch up.
Yeah.
So I think without any further ado, though, unless you have any other, I can't remember if any other anime news came out this week. I don't think as much as last week with all the animated movies and stuff being announced. It's been relatively
I don't
quiet.
think anything huge dropped. At least nothing that was on my radar. So
yeah. So I think without any further ado, before we get into the episode, of course, we have to crack open our non-sponsor energy drinks. Cheers.
Cheers.
Once again, still weird doing these in the day. I don't necessarily need the energy drink. I think if anything, it's going to make me talk very, very fast. So, that's, I guess, don't be surprised if I'm just running through sentences. I try to actively remember to slow my speed down sometimes because when I drink caffeine, I get like really hyped. But I'll do my best. And with that, we will get into the very first episode of the week, which this week I'm not going to get it wrong on the first one. And I'm going to say it's Kumo Desu, episode number 18.
Yeah, you guys are kind of awful, huh?
Yeah, I've been really, really bad at saying My Hero first every single week. I don't know why.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's because you watch it later, so it's fresher in your mind, and it just kind of pops out.
Probably, it's also just been that Kumo Desu has never been the first thing on the list until this like season, so it's still strange to me.
That is true. Yeah,
it's always been like second. It was always been like ReZero, and then it went like Kumo Desu or something. So it always seems like it's a second anime in the list, but it's not. It's first. So like as we mentioned every single week too, the sad part is that being the first one, it's the farthest one since I've seen it, and I did watch this one the day it came out too, which I'm kind of sad about. I know that's it's a weird thing to be sad about, but like honestly, sometimes I think that I should just save it for like the day we record.
I always say to myself, I'm gonna rewatch it the morning we're gonna re-record, and then either I work or like we just get a really early start, so I don't have a chance.
Yeah, life happens. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't have enough time to watch anime once, let alone twice. So.
Yeah.
But I know this episode had a lot of important stuff, which is the kind of like the worst part about having it so early. We pretty much leave off with Shun and them. They get outside of the dungeon from last episode, and Kumiko is being slowly re-put together still. Is where we were left off from the last episode. So I like to give a quick description of how the episode goes very, very fast before to re-jog my memory before we get into the actual defined details. So I don't remember the thing about when they swap between the humans and like Kumiko's side so much is I do not remember the order in which they do it. So I always look at it like here's the Kumiko part of the episode, like as if they split it half and half, and then here's like the human side, because like they do a lot of jump cuts these days, right? Like it swaps back and forth very often.
Yeah, there's a lot of intercut material. So
yeah, so which side do you want to start with?
I mean, probably start with Kumiko like usual, and then go into the humans after.
Yeah, realistically, I feel like her sides these days have a little bit less information. We're getting a lot of like exposition and stuff like that from the human side, and Kumiko's is more just to fortify what we just heard from the human side or what we're about to hear, with like information from the past, right?
Yeah, it's either reinforcing that or it's something that's developing and showing us how she's going to end up when she eventually reconnects with this group. So
yeah, I think the main things from the Kumiko point of view this time, right? She goes into the new town. The people that she saved in the wagon, she sees them again. She sees that the elves are kind of still there looking at them, being sus.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff. And then, it slowly becomes a thing in the town where they know that the Nightmare of the Labyrinth is out there, but they're like, oh, we're not doing anything about it. We know like the spider's there. And they're a little bit curious still if it's like a good or bad, they're like, well, it saved us and it healed him. And
yeah, it's kind of all over the place because other times it's just straight up murdered people. So they're kind of plus, would you want to pick a fight with the Nightmare of the Labyrinth?
Yeah, I don't know. But like the wife too. The wife's just like, no, like this is like God's blessing kind of thing. Like this is the spider's meant to be here, kind of. I think what does she say? It's like it's a divine beast or some shit.
They talk about how or the goddess had a divine beast that was a spider.
Yeah, which obviously as viewers, we've seen someone, even Kumiko in the episode mentions that she's seen someone with the Divine Beast title. But
Yeah.
this lady's like, oh, it must be the Divine Beast sent from the thing like to protect and all that kind of stuff. And obviously, like even later in the episode, we see like people walk up to Kumiko and be like, "Heal my child, please, spider." And Kumiko's like, "Well, I can't understand you, but like that kid sure has liver cancer or something, so I'm gonna heal that right up." So
Yeah, so she's just like, I guess I'll fix you both up, and like within seconds she's cured it. Which I mean, like, way to go, medical magic. That's amazing.
it's great. She didn't have to like know very much information. She just didn't know how like the cancer works or anything. She just like touched them with heal, like boom, done. Yeah, because obviously even at one point we see the perspective from like the dad, like I think he's just like the noble or whatever the area.
Yeah.
And he's being told that like, oh, the spider's now apparently like healing people or some shit. And then the last thing with like Kumiko that we see is just like the huge lineup of people all around just waiting to get healed.
Yeah, she just kind of became a minor deity. So.
Yeah. So I mean that's good for her, but I think the most important part from the Kumiko perspective anyways was like the three leaders.
Oh yeah, all the different humanoid factions.
Yeah, like
dominance.
whoa. Yeah, okay. So you have like like what's the name, Potimas or whatever like that, the elf, Oka Sensei's father.
Yeah.
Which we've seen in the future. We also saw him get murdered in the future. So he's all sorts of gone, but we see him doing some schemes. You have like the leader of like the religion. I think pretty sure it's the word of God.
The Pontifex or
yeah, it's the word of God one, right? Because they mentioned in this episode that there's two separate religions and they don't like each other. And even I think the head of the religion laughs because they're like the same thing. And he's even like, it's funny how we want to kill each other, but we're the same thing. Ha ha ha.
Yeah, we worship the same person. We just do it very, very differently.
Yeah. So you have him. I think what the hell was his name? It's right on the tip of my tongue. It was a very crazy name, like Kyle or something. I don't remember.
I couldn't tell you.
David or Devin. It was something that wasn't like Japanese. And then you have like what was the third faction was the why can I not think of who that was the Demon Lord.
Well the Demon Lord.
Demon
Lord Ariel.
Yeah, Ariel. So they mentioned that they all know that like the other one's like moving kind of thing. And so you're seeing this a little bit of weird political stuff beyond like go on behind the scenes here.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember all the details because Potima says a lot of stuff, and I feel like a lot of it was important, but I can't remember everything he said.
A lot of the conversations from all three of them are talking about how they want the other two to clash.
Yeah, right. They're like, hey, this could work out if I get these two to clash. Then I can be I can kind of swoop in at the end kind of thing. Like they all have like the same plan.
Yeah, and like a lot of them are assuming that Kumiko is acting on Ariel's behalf,
as you rightfully would, right? It's a monster and a spider.
Yeah, because every other spider she's pretty much had unilateral control over.
Yeah, she controls all spiders, except for Kumiko. She's the rebellious teen or whatever it is, but
rebellious teen / reincarnated human. So
yeah, they also mentioned reincarnation. So both it seems like Potimas might have learned about it like earlier, like first.
I think he did. And I honestly think it might be because if he has appraisal, he might have figured it out from his daughter.
Yeah, that's possible. Like as soon as she was born, because as far as we know, these are the first set of reincarnations. If they're all born at the exact same time, then
yeah,
maybe he even appraised his like wife, and it's like, oh, in your womb, this, who knows? Maybe he got real early word.
That's a level of logistics I don't know if we're gonna get.
But either way, it definitely shows that like he seems to know it first, but then we also see the head of like the religion guy. He also knows about the reincarnations. So it could just be based off people knowing appraisal. It could be other pieces of information he found. But this obviously is like important for us knowing like Oka Sensei, knowing the location of most of the stuff like that. Obviously comes a lot from her father too. Him looking into it before she's even born, and then when she obviously gets born, she's a reincarnation. The other interesting thing, because obviously we haven't actually had proof of this, I don't think, is that we see a lot of thoughts from the child version of Negashi or Spooky, whatever her name is.
Yep.
And obviously Kumiko came right out of the egg and had like her reincarnation memories and stuff like that. But I wasn't 100% sure if it was gonna be the same for like the children.
Yeah, no, but they do establish Spooky knew what was going on. She was very, very confused.
Yeah, she's like, it's showing her being born, and she's like, oh, I'm born to like, they look like they might be nobles or something like that. But I guess like she didn't even know that like monsters were necessarily a thing until the whole Kumiko situation. Because as a baby, I guess what do you see and hear? Like they don't really talk that serious stuff around you, and then we get to see the rescue from her perspective of just the spooky ass spider coming in and massacring people.
Yeah, which I kind of wonder if Spooky knew she was a vampire even at that point, because she
I
already had the fangs.
I guess, but like, can she even see the fangs? Like, how often is this little baby looking in a mirror?
I mean, yeah, she wouldn't be able to see them, but I feel like you would be able to feel the big pointy teeth in your mouth.
Maybe. I still don't. I don't know. Are vampires just born? Like,
That was what I was gonna ask. Like, is this like a genetic thing, or
I feel like
is that?
I thought there was gonna be a story about that in this episode about how like I thought they were gonna show the flashbacks and we're gonna see how this child became a vampire or something. Like, oh, maybe it's just genetic. Maybe the real father was a vampire or something. You know? I don't
Maybe,
know.
or maybe it's something that's dormant in their bloodline, or maybe the father's a vampire who filed down his teeth. Like, we don't know.
I'm still pretty sure we get more of her story. I think that she's like the bad guy of season one. You know that
That seems very possible.
because
Yeah.
obviously we're not obviously Ariel showed up and she's the demon lord and all that kind of stuff, but like we're not. I don't think we're gonna get like real stuff from her yet. She's too big, right? She's like the demon lord. So I think that they're going to basically
Yeah.
use the spooky characters like the season one bad guy, and we're gonna think, have Shun defeating her kind of thing.
Yeah,
As to
because this seems like this core is going to be a lot more Shun focused.
Yeah, it seems
So
like. Well, I feel like they kind of have to for us to accurately get a story for when, if we eventually ever just go into the one storyline. If we ever go into like the one
yeah,
timeline, it's like, what's it going to be? Like, that's the confusing part. And I don't know because, as we always mention, we have no clue what goes on in the light novels. People fill us in with little details, but everyone is pretty good at staying spoiler free. So we
true.
don't know, like, oh, where they're currently on the light novels. Is it only in the one timeline? Have they confirmed who Kumiko is yet? Have they, like, we don't know any of the shit. All of our stuff is just guesses.
Yeah,
It seems to me like that's always hard to do, though. It's hard to change it from being like the two different timelines to being one because it's very like finite. So I feel like a lot of times
If you
writers are a little worried
do
about
that,
that.
that's at the very end. That's finale type stuff where you're just kind of paying off everything you've set up at this point.
Yeah, especially when the show has so much of the draw of the show is like guessing what's going to happen, theories, all the red herring stuff like that. So
Yeah.
if they give too much of that information, a lot of people are probably less interested in it.
Mm.
They have to pick like really, really good timings to reveal small bits of information and stuff like that to keep people intrigued, but not like give them everything at once. So probably
True.
tough to do. I'm trying to think about really key important details in this episode that we have forgotten. Like I'm trying.
I mean, we haven't even touched on we haven't really gone over the human side of things too much.
Yeah,
So,
I just remember like I feel like there was so much more from the more like secret information we learned from like Pokemon or whatever like that. But maybe we didn't. Maybe it's just a lot of
I think
talking.
I think a lot of it was dealing with the reincarnations. We know that he sent out a lot of soldiers pretending to be bandits to kidnap people, and so he isn't kidnapping just the reincarnations. He's kidnapping anyone who could be a reincarnation. I
Well,
think.
it also seems like he might just be kidnapping other children to not make it look like he's just kidnapping the reincarnations. Because I feel like his plan is like, oh, if I just kidnap these kids, like they might be on to me or something like that. It was like the gist. So he's kidnapping some other kids
Yeah.
just to make it look like, hey, maybe it's just children being kidnapped. And I feel
Yeah,
like
the biggest problem with that is most people don't know about the reincarnations.
yeah, I feel like that also gives away some info. Like I like they think that what was his name, Bernard? I don't know. The one the one guy's name is something that
That honestly sounds about right, but I don't know why.
yeah, I don't know. It could be close, but he mentions it too. Like he's like, oh, he's like getting the reincarnations, that kind of stuff. But like, what is he getting them for?
Yeah, we don't know because based on what the teacher said in the future, or yeah, I guess the current timeline, there's like 6 of them living in the elf village. There's so many that died, and the rest were at the school, basically.
Yeah, I don't know if he's like if he was intention was like to train them up, or if it was to stop some sort of disaster from happening or cause a disaster to happen, or clearly he has died. So I don't know if that was the end of his plans upon him dying in the future, but that's still like 15 years from now. So whatever his plans
That is true.
are, and in 15 years, all 3 of these factions are still just as in play. There was still the elves. There's still the demon lord, and
Yeah.
as we've seen in this episode when he's mentioning like talking about Hugo and stuff like that, and Shun's having a flashback of him, there's still the high priest or the pope, whatever the hell he's called. So
Yeah, which I'm getting the feeling that the high priest or the pope or whatever he is isn't being controlled. That this is kind of his part of the plan.
yeah, I think that obviously Shun's thinking he is, and then because he has the flashback and thinks back to him, and he's like, oh, seemed like a good guy, seems like a kind man. But obviously, as we
Yeah.
see him like leave, he doesn't seem like he's being controlled. He's
No.
because what's he telling? He's telling his I can't remember now. I'm trying to remember if this was I think this was in the current time. A guy comes into the church, and he like gives him an order or something like that, and then he like mentions, or was that in the past?
That was in the past. In
Okay.
the current timeline, he gives a big speech about Hugo, and as he's walking away, he's smiling. He says, "Let's see what Hugo can do for us."
Yeah. Yeah, that's yeah. Any sort
So
of smile like that makes me think that he ain't being controlled.
yeah, if anything, he's the one who's doing the controlling. So
Yeah. The classic church and anime.
yeah, they're always evil.
Yeah, who's surprised? No, I mean, what else we get from Shun's side though? Because I feel like I remember getting the flashback.
Yeah, we find out that they talk about the goddess who's a winged woman, which goes back to that when we saw that flashback from Shun's dream.
Yeah, because they mentioned that they want to cover up Faye's wings in the town because there's either way it'll be annoying whether or not people think it's like the goddess and start like trying to praise her, or if people think she's like a false pretender kind of thing and go after her. Either way, it just sounds like a huge inconvenience for everybody. So they're like, okay, like no showing the wings, we gotta get you covered up.
Yeah. They do talk about the religion there a little bit, about how they actually delete their skills specifically to worship their god.
Yeah, which because the Oka Sensei ever mentions the specific skill to remove them, and obviously we've seen her use a skill to remove skills.
Yeah, which does explain that, which I'm actually kind of glad we finally got a little bit of explanation for that.
Yeah,
so.
how she knows it, I don't know. Like, is it something that you're taught? Is it something you can just naturally get? Like,
yeah, I mean, I'm assuming it'd be something that any priest of this religion would have access to, because if that's how you worship. So
yeah. There was one thing, I don't think it was in this episode, but we never mentioned it before because it was kind of curious. Katya is like his red-haired friend.
Yeah.
Who was the male in the other world.
Yeah.
The anime is trying to tell us that he's gay, right? I don't. Someone might have mentioned it in the most recent comments, but I didn't actually think about it when we were watching the episode. But that's 100% what the show's trying to tell us.
I honestly didn't put that much thought into it.
He basically at one point like he's going with Faye, or she's going with Faye to change, and then she was like, "Oh, why can't I go?" But Katya go, like, you're actually a dude, and he's just like, no, shush, like, you don't understand, kind of thing. Like, he goes with them anyways.
I don't know if gay would be the right term. Because they talk about when you're reincarnated based on your soul's wavelength.
Yeah.
So if anything, it'd be transgender.
Maybe, because I guess it depends on how the anime looks at it. But I feel like I don't know if we're ever going to get more backstory of like some of the original characters before they're reincarnated, like their personality and stuff like that. Like, we only see a very brief scene with him. But it could just be that in his heart, maybe he was in the other world, he would have considered himself more feminine. So then when he gets reincarnated, that's like the way his soul takes it. And now that he's in this world, he's finally starting to embrace it. Which is I was just thinking about that because someone mentioned something to do with Katya in one of the most recent comments, and I was like, I feel like there were a couple hints in the last episode that I did not pick up on.
Yeah, a lot of it I just kind of dismissed as like he was born as a woman, therefore he's just living life as a woman.
Yeah, but I feel like I feel like if that was like your average person, they would make more of like a stink about it kind of thing, like even how like Faye, when we first meet her, is like complaining constantly that she was born as like a monster and not a human. Like, she's like, oh, what did I do wrong in the last life? The fact that Katya just kind of immediately puts it aside.
I mean, we don't know if they immediately put it aside. They've had 15 years to get over this.
Yeah, we need a flashback of a baby guy being born and like looking in the mirror, and they're like, what a cute girl. He's like, wait, what? He's like, no, I'm a boy. Damn it. But yeah, I don't know.
For all we know, he was excited. For all we know, he was like, damn right, I'm a cute girl.
I want more I want more flashbacks of these people, like these characters in like the human world before they're reincarnated. Like, we've seen a little bit from Shun, right? We saw that he's like a nice guy, but he's just a pretty normal kid. And then this world, he's like the cool hero or like that. And but like we just haven't gotten enough stuff. Even with like Hugo, like, right, we saw Hugo in the flashback, and he was kind of like he wasn't like a dick, but he was kind of like sporty, a little bit more jockey than probably like Shun was.
Yeah, he's a little bit more personality forward, but he's a completely different person with skills.
Yeah, which that's why they take them away, right? So.
I guess so.
I'm trying to think of key details. What are some big key details that are important?
Oh. I don't know if we got anything else. I know he tried to ask the guy to go with him, and he was just like, no, I'm too old. I'm not doing this shit anymore.
Yeah, he's like, you're the hero. You can handle this. He's like, I'm just a guide kind of thing. And does that mean he has to go back through the dungeon by himself and swim up? Or
I think it does, yeah.
Because how the fuck, like, what if like he goes to swim up this time and there's the water dragons again. Like, this dude's just fucked.
Well, I mean, because he doesn't have the hero with him anymore, he could very easily just go through the dungeon normally.
I guess, but wouldn't they be like, hey, how'd you get into the dungeon? You didn't come through the entrance.
Oh, it's like I was already on the other side. I guided someone else like a few weeks ago, and I just stayed.
Yeah, I suppose maybe. I guess that's we're thinking too deeply on something that doesn't matter in that part.
Yeah, I mean, for all we know, the next episode we're gonna see him get murdered because he helped the hero. Like,
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's possible. And then, we don't really see very much from Ariel. Like we see that when Kumiko first gets put back together, she's all pumped that she's all like alive and that kind of stuff, and she like thinks about Ariel again, but like I don't really think we see anything from her.
yeah, we see her kind of debating like how she's gonna deal with her, and then she moves off into the village in order to eat and kind of grow her strength. But I don't think we actually got any details from Ariel herself.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I don't think that. I think that Kumiko's side for the season will end in a confrontation with Ariel, but obviously we know, or at least we guess in the future that they like work together in a sense. So I don't think it's going to end with one of them dying. Clearly.
Yeah, I mean the most likely outcome is the Demon Lord wins and says, "Okay, you're strong, so you're going to work for me now."
Yeah, like something along that line, and that's kind of Kumiko's end for the first season. And then obviously I think that Shun and them is going to be against probably Hugo and like Spooky. Negashi, whatever her name is. I can't remember.
Probably.
What's her name in this world? That's sort of the easiest way to, because it's not a hard name.
I know, and I just can't remember it. I've been trying to remember it this whole time. It's like it's a very standard vampire name.
Yeah, in my mind, I'm thinking either Alice or Claire. Those are both kind of vampire lady names.
I think Alice is actually it.
they're both blonde vampire lady names, right? So, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like then it's going to be Hugo's final encounter. I don't know if it'll necessarily be both of them, but I think it will be. I don't think they want to push Shun for too long as like a bad guy, or not Shun, Hugo for too long as a bad guy, because he's not that good.
Yeah, well, he's more of a pawn than anything, right? So,
yeah. But
they're probably gonna have. I don't know if they'll cash in on the vampire. I think they'll just have Hugo be the final bad guy.
I mean,
then have her like retreat and.
The thing now, like one of the implications from this episode is we see that there's three separate sides for the most part here. There's there were three sides in 15 years ago that were kind of concerned with each other. There was like the elves, there were the religion, then there was the Demon Lord's army. And the fact that Hugo is technically working for the Demon Lord's army and also the church right now.
Is he working for the Demon Lord's army?
Well, so he's being controlled in a sense by Alice or Negashi, whatever her name is, Spooky.
Yeah, but I think Alice is associated with the church, not
at all with the Demon Lord. I don't see.
No, because she showed up when the church was attacking them.
Yeah, but
unless they have some sort of alliance with the Demon Lord army.
That's either there could be an alliance. Like I think that this is going to be what's important for like the 15 years ago, like seeing how these three different groups kind of associate with each other, because it could lead to a Demon Lord alliance with the church, or it could lead to maybe Negashi does join the Demon Lord's army side, but then works like near the church as like a spy or something. Like I don't know. There's too little information about it. I think that's kind of some important stuff we'll see. Was there a next time on? Was there a next time, or I don't think so.
I don't think so. There wasn't even an after credit scene.
Was there a post credit scene? Because we always forget those whenever one comes up. But typically, I always look.
You always forget that.
Listen, I've been really, really good lately, but right now, I don't know why. Like, I think maybe next week. Either way, I have to save Kumo Desu for later in the week and watch it closer to the podcast. Especially when they're like, it's not always that bad, but like, I feel like in this episode, I'm just missing little key details. I thought like while I was watching it, I literally watched the anime, and while I'm watching, like, ooh, like I'm gonna remember that piece of information there. That's gonna come in handy. And then like when we get to talk about it next week, I'm like, yeah, I don't remember I don't remember. The elf went to a whole fucking monologue about shit, and I don't remember a single thing he said.
Yeah, we might actually have to start taking notes.
Either have to start taking notes on it or just watch it later. Because if I like watch Kumo Desu the night before, I'll remember everything. Like I'll remember every key detail. But obviously, the nice part too is that we have commenters. So if we're missing any very, very key details, remember these no spoilers, just things that were said in the episode that could have later implications. Let us know down below. That'll jog our memory before we go into next week, so we can remember all the small little details and really help us out.
That is true.
Let us know too.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Let us know if you want us to start taking notes on the episode. We did notes for a little while when we first started. But I think we mentioned this last week. Sometimes you're too busy thinking about the notes than you are like watching and just enjoying the anime. And obviously the first thing on our mind should just be enjoying the anime, which we are. We're enjoying it a lot. Not remembering everything Potimath said didn't ruin the episode for me. But at the same time, we are here discussing it, and sometimes if we're missing small key details, it might, we might need that detail to come up with a nice theory for people and stuff like that. So,
True.
let us know down below if you think we should start doing notes for stuff like Kumo Desu, if you just like kind of us talking about the episode more casually, and then you guys can kind of fill in some of the missing details for us. So
yeah,
at least anything that we missed, you guys leave it down below, and we'll make sure to mention it next week as we try to do, and then we'll pretty much, like, how many episodes is this? This is 18 and above probably 24, 25.
Yeah, I think it's a 24 episode.
So that still leaves us a decent amount of episodes left. Like, I'm trying to figure out what's going to happen in them. I think we're going to have Kumiko not leaving this village for a couple episodes. I think that if anything, the Demon Lord's going to come to this village while Kumiko is here, and it's going to cause some sort of issue.
Yeah, I think she's gonna have a conflict in the village with a demon lord. It's also because she's being worshipped as a deity at this point. So
yeah, she's also like being worshipped as the divine beast or like that, which is what as we've seen from the title, the demon lord is. So, and
so
I think it's pretty safe to say that a demon lord is probably pretty like arrogant in like a sense, and having other people being called like your title might piss her off. We've already seen that she's kind of already fucking pretty pissed off at Kumiko. So
well, yeah, because Kumiko's already killing one of her underlings and took a bite out of Ariel's mind from the looks of it. So
yeah, I think the other thing that we might get a Potimas Kumiko mix up. They might actually meet each other. I'm kind of hoping for it.
She's very anti-elf at this point.
Well, yeah, I mean she was really excited because she's like, oh, think of all the video games, how cool elves are, nice little forest folk. But in this, they're just trying to assassinate people. That's all she's seen from them.
Yeah, she's murdered literally all but 2 of the ones she's seen.
Yeah, he might not be happy too. He's like, hey, you've killed a lot of my people. But she doesn't really understand, right? They're just trying to kidnap a baby. So she's like, whatever, I'll just kill them. And she's like, plus the EXP,
free experience. And
I think she even mentions that in this episode. She's like, plus the humans just give so much EXP. But
yeah, she needs all the levels she can get, right? So
yeah, she needs to grind up because she needs to get to that humanoid evolved form. Which maybe we'll see that the very final thing we'll see in the season might be like her finally becoming the humanoid, because obviously that's gonna probably tell us who she is in the future. I feel like they're holding on to that tightly right now, but
yeah, that'd probably be a season ender. Although I don't think we're gonna get the full humanoid. I think we're gonna get the arachne form.
Yeah, I hate arachne forms. They're too confusing. They remind me too much of Monster Musume.
That was the one that popularized it. So
yeah, either way, I don't know. It's a good anime. As I said, like, we enjoy every episode we watch. Sometimes we just miss a lot of like small key details, especially when it's a lot of like just dialogue episodes, which this was.
There's a lot of the time where I go into the comments after and I'm like, how could I have forgotten this?
Oh yeah, it happens every single time. Like, it's just like this episode I don't think had any really fighting. It was just 100% dialogue. You have the 2 different perspectives, and the show hops back and forth between both. It's the first thing on the week. It's just a big mix up to leave us with an episode where we probably forget a lot of small things. But the best part of that is that most of our audience is watching Kumo Desu in the videos, and that's probably you. So then just leave us a comment, look through the other comments, and if you see someone's mentioned one thing we missed, be like, hey, I'm going to mention a different thing then. Then I can kind of scroll through and we can see all the things we missed. And then we will, any important ones we'll talk about next week before we talk about the actual Kumo Desu episode. And that way we can fill ourselves in. And we'll get back to episode number 19 next week. And who knows, maybe it'll be online, maybe it'll be in person. We'll have to figure that out soon. But either way, we'll be here talking about Kumo Desu until the end of the season. Next up on the list, My Hero Academia, episode number 96.
Match 3 conclusion. Again, really knocking it out of the park with these titles.
Very straightforward name. There was a match 3. It's been concluded. It did not conclude the way I thought it was going to from last week's predictions. Kind of close. Yeah. My predictions, if you recall from last week, is that Todoroki would use his new move, but it would be just not powerful enough to actually win the fight, and they would lose last second, which was so close to happening.
Yeah,
but of course,
he was powerful enough, but he got interrupted.
Little fucking cuck horn girl had to just go fucking time out the match.
What was her name? Pony.
Yeah, she's like speaks English sometimes. Her language. Okay, what language is she speaking? She does not sound like she's speaking Japanese. I don't know if it's just like the inflection the girl's like the voice actress is using, but it literally sounds different than everyone else's language. And it confuses me.
I think it's a different dialect.
Okay.
So it might be like Hokkaido. So.
Okay, yeah, because it confuses me. I'm like, half the time, I'm like, wait, did she just like skip into another language? And obviously sometimes.
Well, half the time she's speaking in English.
Yeah, half the time she does go into English, which is kind of funny. But no, I mean, as we know from last week, we're leaving off of the match with Todoroki. So the Class 1A has It's got Todoroki. It's got lot of arm and eyeball guy. What's his name?
Tentacle.
Yeah, Tentacle. You have why can I just not remember any of the people right now? I was just
Ida, also known as Ingenium.
Yes.
And Ojiro, which I think is like Tailman or something like that.
Yeah. Oh god. He was like, I'm not gonna lie, he sucks. Even in the episode, how much they mock him for how ordinary his quirk is.
Yeah,
I get it's like kind of funny. It's like, oh yeah, his quirk's ordinary, but like he does extraordinary things with it. But no, he doesn't. He sucks. Let's just face it. Like he's not 1A material. Toss him over to 1B.
To be fair, he was in like a really bad matchup for most of that fight. He was someone who, if he fights, he literally just tears chunks of his flesh off. So
yeah, no. So we've mentioned this a few times that obviously there's not tons to talk about when we get to class battles, and like they're not really any special. It's almost in a sense like a filler. But can we talk about how good the Ida animation looked in this though?
Oh my god, yeah, that made the episode worth watching.
Was style. The whole episode was worth watching just from his fucking, what's it called, like Reciproco or Turbo Boost or the shit it's called.
Recipro Turbo, yeah.
Yeah, like when he uses that and the whole fucking thing goes black and you just see like the fire and it's just like skating around on the ice and shit. I'm like, oh, this looks dope. Like they made Ida way tougher. Because I mean, let's face it, like Ida looks like his power is one of those ones that like seemed kind of cool, but is also kind of lame. But when you think about it in the sense where if he goes so fast, he's basically super speed. Super speed in like modern day action, you know, and like hero movies and stuff like that is always so dope. Like think about all the Quicksilver scenes in like the newest X-Men movies that are all pretty bad. The Quicksilver scenes made every single one of the movies just by being so cool. So if we get Ida like in this, obviously that's the fastest we've seen him. They show the thing in the fucking that looked fucked up where he's like pulling out his in the last episode.
Yeah, it's like, okay, you have to pull out your mufflers. Yeah, and train without them.
In my mind, I'm just thinking how fucked up that is. I was like, oh, like he's just sitting there ripping things out of his flesh.
And he's just like ripping them out. It's like, oh god.
Yeah, I'm like, oh my god. That's like they're like, oh Cam, to truly use your hand power, you must first pull off all your fingernails. I'm like, I don't like this one bit. But like, okay. Yeah, I don't know. So obviously the last episode finished with him. You know, he's stuck inside the mud ice, or whatever you want to call it. That's where we see the little flashback of him learning how to boost up his power by training without his mufflers. And then we see him break out of the ice. And then in this episode, that's kind of where we start off. You know, him versus Mudman. And he's fast as shit. Like he's obviously, it helps with all the ice there too, even though he even says he can't like fully control it. He's so fast. But I mean, it seems like he controlled it pretty well.
Yeah, that's not fully controlled. I can't imagine the amount of precision he's actually shooting for.
Yeah, so he's pretty much wrecking Mudman until Mudman decides to flee, right? You know, good decision by him. He dives in, he decides to go for a flee and go to help out the other people. You still have Tetsu versus Todoroki.
Which is just an endurance match at this point.
Yeah, exactly. It literally starts off with like Tetsu is wrecking him, right? The ice, like it doesn't slow down Tetsu's body at all. So then he decides to swap to fire during the fight, and then the fire is like not even hot enough because he's trained in a goddamn oven or something. Like,
yeah, like I understand what they're going for. I feel like it would still be fucking really painful.
Listen, I can go sit in my oven as long as I want. It's not going to make me heat resistant, but you know, I guess that's like I thought the heat would be effective, right? Like, oh, it's steel. You heat up steel hot enough, it's gonna fucking melt. Like, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot to melt steel, though.
I guess, but I mean, you think
you can make it pliable, but.
Yeah, my question, does just his flesh turn into steel, or do his internal organs turn into steel?
I don't know.
Because if it was just his flesh and you heated up the steel of his flesh that's that hot, it would literally cook the inside of his body like he's a potato wrapped in aluminum foil.
Yeah, except for it would be even worse because steel retains heat, while foil doesn't.
Yeah, so these are the questions I have while watching this. I'm like, hey, that guy's gonna get cooked, but you know he didn't. Of course, yeah. You have a tail guy versus the rotator, vibrator, whatever his name is.
Again, vibrator was the dude in the like thoughty froppy outfit.
I guess, yeah, Gyro. And you know I would like to say he's doing well, but he's not really. Like he's 100% losing in the 1v1, and right as he's about to get taken out, that's where fucking Ida super speeds in and grabs him and puts him in jail. So it was all Ida.
Just straight up, fuck you, you're caught, throws him in prison.
He's caught, right? He's like, okay, sweet, 1-0 right there. Ida's fast, he's doing all the good things. He's being a best boy as always. And then you have like Tentacle versus Horn Lady. It's just not going really anywhere for either of them. They both kind of suck.
Yeah, I mean, their powers are kind of odd because Tentacles is more utility
Yeah,
based.
he's a good like scouter and stuff like that, right? Like
Like
he's
Scouter, and like he'd be really good at like getting people out of a bad situation, but he wouldn't really win a straight fight for the most part.
yeah, and I don't know what exactly her powers are good at, so
I mean, she took out Tailman.
that's not impressive. That's not a feat. I could probably take out Tailman. Like fucking grape juice could probably take out Tailman.
To be fair, Grape Juice could probably take out a lot of people
Grape
if you
juice
give
could
him some
just
credit.
sticky grape thing between his tail and his body, and then all of a sudden he's got no tail. What a freaking idiot! But yeah, so I don't remember the exact order in which this happens, but basically it's looking relatively bad for their team. The main part of the episode is definitely kind of the Tetsu and Todoroki fight, where Todoroki is like, as I kind of said, he's taking the advice from his father. He's trying to learn the move mid battle, and he's just like heating up his body to such an extreme level, and it very much looks like the same Endeavor thing we've seen, where he has the actual like fire on him, but just on the one side of Todoroki's body. Now, tell me in the future that it's not going to be the entire half side is fire and the entire one side's ice, right? Like, come on. I was expecting it here, but I knew it wasn't going to happen because as I predicted that he was not going to be able to fully use his power and it wasn't going to make him win. But in the future, he's going to have all the fire on the right side and his body's going to be so hot and his left side's going to be fucking complete ice. And, half hot, half cold, ultimate power. He's going to have them shoot out.
But dude, I don't know if that would look good because you remember his original outfit?
Yeah.
Like where he just had like the shitty ice over the fire side of his body.
Yeah. To be fair, the show's like, hey guys, what if we forget about the original outfits? Okay, they're kind of shitty. Like remember Deku's dumbass fucking hat? Let's just get rid of that most of the time. We'll come back with it sometimes. It'll be much cooler than before. Like,
yeah, well, even then, like he had like the really crappy mouth guard that had like a smile painted on it. Now he's got like the full on like metal mask.
And it broke every single time, anyways. I'm like, what fucking good is that for a hero? Like someone punches him in the face and it breaks. I'm like, okay, great guard. Like thanks.
I mean, it took the hit for him, so
yeah, I don't know. Have you seen the? They showed off recently their outfits for the third movie when it comes out, and they look really really cool.
I haven't seen it yet. No.
They showed up. They showed the concept art or whatever it was for Todoroki, Bakugo, and Deku's third movie outfits, and they look really really cool. They're all hooded.
Of course they are.
But even like Bakugo's like winter outfit, like his winter uniform, dope, right? Like his costume. Really cool.
Yeah, it's very similar to his base outfit, though. It just gives him like sleeves and like a high collar. So
yeah, it's pretty much just the high collar. Like the high collar is the coolest part. No one needs sleeves, but the high collar part's cool. But yeah. So Todoroki, he's going plus ultra. He's lighting it up. He's getting really hot. Tetsu is basically just trying to resist as much heat as possible while he's giving him a little bit of a thrashing. He's like punching Todoroki's stomach, giving him some kicks.
Yeah,
doing a bunch of that kind of shit. Pure endurance match. And then I'm pretty sure it looks like Todoroki's gonna win. Like Todoroki does, he like winds up and like all the fire's in his fist, right? Like it looks like he's about to do some sort of ultimate attack. And then he gets cucked.
Yeah, Mudman decides that's the moment he has to interfere.
Yeah, Mudman.
Which I mean,
Mudman.
You can't really fault him. So.
Yeah, I mean he's Mudman. It showed in this that Mudman's like intelligent, right? Like he's like kind of like he's a good leader of their little squad, kind of like Kendo in the last match.
He was one of the people who got in based on recommendation too, so he's technically on even footing with Todoroki. So.
Yeah, he's got a good sense too, like kind of like even how we see in Ida. He doesn't just try to. He's not like Tetsu, who's just going to try and win his 1v1 every single time. He realizes that when he's losing, it's a good time to bail, and he should go help out his teammates because they're in a losing situation. So he gets in there to stop Todoroki, and then Ida fucking flies out of nowhere and just absolutely smokes him in the face.
Yeah,
he gives him a flying fucking kick to the face, and then even Mudman's like getting
shatters his mask.
Yeah, as Mudman's getting knocked out, he's like, he said he couldn't control that. It looks pretty fucking controlled to me. So he's literally like he's literally being knocked out, right? He's like in his mind, he's like, okay, I'm going unconscious as we speak. He's like, but before I go, and he like touches the tower, and he's like, oh Tetsu, and then Tetsu like pushes it over. I guess making it liquidy enough for a couple seconds, let him push over the tower. I don't know the science behind it. I guess it just made it structurally weaker.
Yeah, well, the whole thing was he was making it soft so it would envelop him if it landed on them, right?
Yeah, I thought he was gonna make it full soft, so it would just like come on, it would like go down like a waterfall, like it'd be like a big waterfall kind of hitting them. But then it wasn't. But also, come on, I want to rewatch the episode and check the height of this tower because it seemed like it got longer. I'm just saying.
I think it did. Yeah.
There's no way with Ida's speed that he was running at. Like the tower was like, it was okay. Let's say it's like 50 feet tall. When it gets pushed over, though, it's 3,000 feet, and it's going the entire length of the map. I'm like, come on, tower.
Yeah,
is this a bonus
some
tower?
scaling issues.
What's that tower's quirk? Like, come on. But
it elongates.
So Tetsu pushes it, and as it's being pushed, Ida's trying to outrun it, but while holding Todoroki, and from his fight earlier with the gyro guy, he's a little bit slower. So last second he decides to give Todoroki a little bit of a toss, and he gets enveloped. Todoroki's pretty much unconscious. Ida can't move, so he's stuck, so he's out of the competition. Tailman got horned right into the cage, so he's out because he sucks. Mudman's unconscious. So literally you just have Horn Girl, and then you have Tentacle.
Yeah.
And because she collects Todoroki and then just flies up into the sky. So, and Tentacle can't reach her because he has no flying abilities. He's got nothing good, and she literally just waits the time out until they get a draw.
Yeah,
that's.
I think there is something she could have done. She could have very easily just while staying in the sky, flew over to their cage and just tried to swoop Todoroki in.
Yeah, I guess if she just would have returned one person. I guess she knew though that yeah, to me, okay, because her logic was that her flying speed was not fast enough. The tentacle would catch her no matter what. So she goes up high. But can you not just do the same flying speed but up high, and then you both can't catch you and you're going farther? I don't understand her logic. It's no. The higher altitude, the horns are actually way less effective. I don't know.
Maybe.
But I guess it seemed lame. Even some of the people were complaining, and they're like, no, that's sometimes you just want to not take the loss kind of thing. And it's supposed to be shows that she's intelligent But
well, I mean, the idea of waiting for backup is definitely there. Yeah, but she had options.
It's obviously too that I think this is showing the more slightly destructive nature of the competition too. In the other ones we had maybe one person go unconscious or something like that, but in this one both teams were pretty much fucked.
Yeah, I mean, in the second match they got pretty banged up too. I mean, Todoroki was literally choking on mushrooms.
Takoyami, you mean, or whatever his name is?
What'd I say?
Todoroki.
Oh yeah,
it's because he's
Tokoyami.
Yeah, but nobody was unconscious. I think the only one that was unconscious was Yao Momo, whatever the fuck her name is.
Yeah, Momo was out, and
I think that was the only person who was actively unconscious. But in this one, you had one person on each side that was captured, two people on each side that were basically unconscious, and then two people that were fine, just chilling. So they they go to after they get sent to the room.
They probably saw the last match, how if Tokoyami had gone out and just completely annihilated them and knocked them out, they would have won.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't because he didn't knock them out.
Yeah, because he was a bitch.
Yeah, I think he was just I don't think I need to knock them out for a training exercise. But...
I mean, even in this though, you see as they go to the recovery room, and your recovery girls giving little smooches and that kind of stuff. And once again, Ida's apologizing, and Todoroki's nah, you don't have to apologize. I know I was awake for a second. I saw that you threw me to save me, kind of thing, showing that Ida's still the true hero. He made all the right decisions in this. It just kind of sucks that they didn't win. It definitely wasn't fucking his fault they didn't win. I'm saying right now, if you didn't get fucking tail guy and eyeball guy in your team, you would have been fine. The short end of the stick, even Todoroki was less effective than Ida was in this.
Yeah,
so I liked it.
Todoroki was against a hard countered. He was against someone who resisted both fire and ice.
Yeah, but that's to me once again use some intellect. Why are you putting the guy? I guess that they didn't really know that till he's fighting, but when they're fighting and it's not working out, Todoroki is intelligent enough. He should know to also kind of like Mudman escape. He should try to bail and then swap up the teams. Swap up who's fighting him.
I know, but they had to have Todoroki have a fight where he had a hard time.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of important. Todoroki, yes, as I kind of guessed in the prediction, a lot of it's about he's realizing he needs extra power and he knows how to get it, but he's not quite there yet. I think he would have done it was pretty much there until he got obviously cocked by Mudman. But Ida was definitely the MVP in this match.
Oh, he definitely was. I did want to see what Todoroki's big fire punch was going to be.
Yeah, I assume it was just going to be he hits him, then fire comes out. It was just going to be a fire punch, right?
I mean, I was expecting some X-Burner shit from Hitman Reborn or something like that. So
probably not that cool yet.
I mean, hopefully, yeah.
The thing is, I think that they're saving that for him to use on a villain, right? We're going to see him use that at a moment it counts more than just hitting his teammate, his classmate with it or whatever. So
yeah.
Because at the same time, you have to wonder. I understand that it's an anime, and most things, the amount of damage they take is not actually relevant to real life. Because hitting your teammate with a fucking 700-degree fire punch sounds like it's pretty dangerous. Because I have a feeling if he hits a villain with that later, they're going to be like unconscious, almost dead. But if he hits his classmate with that, they'd be like, fine. Recover Girl, give him a smooch, and they'd be ready to go.
Yeah.
So
Recovery Girl definitely is like a Deus Ex Machina in a can.
yeah, they're like, oh, you just broke all of your bones in your body. Oh, you're good now. Go out to watch the rest of the class battle.
Unless you're Deku. And
Unless you're Deku, yeah,
like,
that's unfixable. Nothing we could do.
We can fix it, but if you do it again, you're going to lose your hand.
But yeah, it was nice seeing the little wrap up with them in the room, all kind of being like, respecting each other, right? You got Mudman in there. He's like, I'm going to fight to be better too. And, Ida's like, I'm going to get more powerful. I can save more people. And Todoroki's like, yeah, I agree. Like, let's all work towards our goals. The classic
and
shit like that.
Ojiro's just like not even there.
Yeah, he didn't even deserve to be in the same fucking conversation as the shitty tail guy, for fuck's sakes. I understand that you have to have people who are bad too, but like he's just so lame.
I mean, I get it. He's supposed to be like the martial arts expert, so he's supposed to be really good in close quarter combat.
Yeah, but that's not really a quirk, like knowing how to do martial arts is like not, Deku could have known how to do martial arts without the quirk.
Yeah, well, they even talk about how Deku learned to kick from Ida.
Yeah, that's why
not the martial artist.
Ida's like, I need to get better at new things because Deku's taking my kicking thing, even though Ida would get a sick kick in this anyways. I was expecting Ida just to punch someone in the face. Be like, oh, well, Deku took my kick. Well, I'm going to start punching people. Could have been like, Ingenium smash, and, but I don't know.
Just a big super speed uppercut.
I feel like eventually... The thing is, okay, so like let's look at the weaker guys on the class, right? So obviously, what's this? Can't Stop Twinkling, also very weak in a sense. Like,
he has a high power quirk. He just doesn't use it.
Well, it's also I think the negative side is a lot too, right? Like compared to like something like Ojiro, yeah, he can use his tail as much as he wants, and it's not gonna it's like, oh, if I use my tail too much, my tail hurts or something. Like that's like the worst case.
Yeah, but his best case scenario is he has extra mobility and a big beat stick on his ass.
But if you put both of those guys on like the bottom tier of the class, though, at least even when Aoyama, like his moment in like the one class battle where he does like the back bridge into the up laser beam, it's like, yes, this character sucks, but like this was still a fun this was like an epic moment for him, even though it's kind of lame. Yeah. It just came off as like, yes, we all know he's lame, but like we'll love him anyways because he did a back bridge into a laser beam to signal. But like, what the fuck? Tail guy's doing nothing that we care about.
I think he's supposed to be like the underdog character in this situation because they decided not to make the main character that.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, like Midoriya was the underdog for a lot of early seasons.
And he was, yeah, but then I think around the time Shinzo showed up, he stopped being the underdog.
Well, yeah, I mean, around the time he started like winning things, he became like kind of like your top three with. Well, I don't know. I feel like if you had to pick like the top of the class, like in power, I guess it's kind of hard to do. Like in our minds as like viewers, we're always thinking Bakugo, Todoroki, and Deku.
Which, I mean, for raw firepower, they definitely win.
Well, yeah, Todoroki wins in that sense.
I mean, okay, yes, but
yeah,
you get what I'm saying.
In like pure strength of people who like use their quirk, you also have like Tokoyami, obviously very powerful. He came like third in the the school battle. Even like Momo's quirk is like really good. That's a useful fucking quirk, but like she just kind of sucks. So it never goes very far with the quirk.
Yeah, well, I mean, part of the problem is she has a finite resource, and just thinking of the stuff you need at the moment.
Yeah, I mean,
that would be a lot of pressure.
Plus, you still need like the knowledge to to make it. Like I'm pretty sure they mentioned that early on. Like she has to learn a lot of stuff because you can't just be like in your mind think fully functioning gun and it comes out as a fully functioning gun, right? Like you have to know how things work.
She has to understand the mechanism. She has to understand gunpowder. She has to understand the rifling on the barrel.
When it comes to utility, that's like one of the best quirks. She can literally like solve world hunger if she had enough time. But
I mean, not really. No.
Okay, well she can do a lot of stuff. Like even we see her in some like she obviously made the goggles in the one part, but for the most part, like being able to make anything on the fly, like when she makes like electricity proof nets and stuff like that, very useful. But she just doesn't like. It's never really useful that much in like a fight with her, so she never comes off as that powerful. So I wouldn't put her in the same level.
She comes from a rich family. She's a spoiled rich girl. I'm not saying that's a negative thing, but she's never really been in a fight before she came to UA.
Yeah.
Like, did she ever need to use her powers in any type of context other than practice?
No, and then of course she gets let in on a recommendation, so she doesn't have to do the test.
Exactly.
Because I'm not even confident if she would win and how well she would do in that.
Well, yeah, because there's 4 recommendation spots. There's Todoroki, Yamomo, Mudman, and then the character we saw in the next time in this one.
Yep.
So,
Yeah,
Like, do we even know if she would win between the four of them?
I don't. I think she would lose if they was like a it was competition between all of them. She would definitely lose. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, obviously her quirk's cool, but it's not very powerful. But yeah, I don't know. We always think of Deku and them like Deku because we know how much power he will have, even if you're not considering his current active power level.
I mean, even considering that, like the things that they can take out is just much larger than anyone else at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, plus
obviously the I feel like a lot of it in early seasons was coming down to who's stronger between Todoroki and Bakugo, but I feel like they've slowly made Todoroki like less, not like less powerful, but like less like OP looking. Like he loses a lot more fights now. He didn't even he didn't even get his he was one of him and Bakugo both didn't get their provisional licensing thing on like the first go.
Yeah, like with them it was less about their power and less about their skill, more about their interpersonal skills.
Yeah, but
interact.
Even then, like Todoroki's a character when he first comes in, he's like the emotionalist, like but super ultra powerful. But now he's more emotional, but he also seems less ultra powerful. So his character's just changed a bunch, you know?
True.
But either way, it was a good episode. At the ending, obviously, we're getting hints for like the fourth match. We know it's Bakugo's team, and then they mentioned how there's the other girl let in on recommendations, and they show her, and she's got like the skin tight outfit and the black hair, and I don't know what the hell she does, but I guess we'll find out. But then, more importantly, though, Bakugo has a plan, and now I have a feeling his plan is going to be let me 1v4 them.
Yeah, I can almost guarantee it's going to be him trying to 1v4.
Because all you see is see his team be like, wait, what, Bakugo? Like, that's crazy or something. And he's just like smiling. Yeah. So
his team consists of what? Sero, Jiro, and Sugar Rush?
Yeah. So I mean, like, I could either see the plan is there's either two twists, okay? The plan's either that he wants to 1v4 them. He's just like, hey, let me fight all of them at one time, which realistically should not possibly work, right? Like that doesn't make any sense. No. It shouldn't possibly happen, no matter how strong Bakugo is.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, though, is, or it's a twist that he actually does have a plan and it's going to come in after. It's going to make it look, they're going to be like, oh, this is a classic. We've heard about Bakugo from 1A. He's a fucking dick. And they're going to think he's like 1v4ing them, but it's actually going to be a plan going on in the background. And the real surprise of the team is that they were surprised he thought up of a good plan. Because, like, the show often tries to show Bakugo as like a dumb meathead who's ultra powerful, but at other times it also shows that he's like extremely good. Like, yes, he's very naturally talented, but he also has like good sense. Like he even in the fight with Deku early on, he changes up his normal attack styles and he does like feints and stuff like that by thinking about what Deku think he's gonna do and stuff like that. Like he's showed to be very intelligent and has like probably the best battle skills out of all of them, like in the entire class. Especially
the biggest problem is his pride. Like he doesn't accept anyone else.
That's why I think a lot of it here is going to be, putting not actually putting his pride aside, but I think that there must going to be a secret plan that was made in the background. The thing is now, where do we go from here? Because we have one win for each and then one draw.
Yeah, there's two more matches.
So like, if there's two more matches, unless this one also ends in a draw, which would just be really lame. Let's say if 1A wins this. And then it comes down to, even if Deku and their team loses, the whole thing comes down to a draw, which is kind of lame because it's very anime to be like, look, we don't want to say 1A is better than 1B, so like they're going to, being a draw is like a good outcome for the anime.
Yeah.
But then I feel like there's not really that much stakes for when Deku goes in, because worst case as the audience, if they lose, like, okay, well at least they draw. But
true.
At the other time, it's like if 1B, wins, like then it'll only be like I don't know, if 1A wins, then it just seems then they win. Yeah, it just seems like, I don't know. It seems like too OP. I don't really know how this is going to go. The obvious thing would have been that we go in with 2 wins each, and then it comes down to the big outcome. But I don't know. Either,
I don't think they're going to let both. If they have Todoroki tie, they're not going to let Bakugo tie.
That's what I'm saying. Coming into the final battle with either you win or you draw, like without having an option for Class 1A losing, just seems kind of lame. But you never know. They might twist it up. They might have something else happen. Like, as I said, we don't really know how it's going to end. Other than we're pretty sure it's going to end with Deku having to get some new powers or learning more about the vestiges while he has to fight the Shinzo guy. But
they're probably gonna focus on the vestiges as opposed to actually the competition.
Now, how would you feel? How would you feel if Bakugo goes in 1v4s and wins? Like, if
first of all, I think that'd be really fucking boring.
We obviously talked last week, I think, about how the show jacks Bakugo off a lot, You know, like
Yeah,
they don't
he's a
want
fan favorite, so they want to make him look cool.
they don't want to let him lose, but they'll let like Deku lose and Todoroki lose and all that kind of stuff. But like for
Yeah.
some reason, like Bakugo's where they draw the line. Like what if he actually just went in and 1v4 and won? Like he just knocks them all out and brings them back to jail.
You know what
by
I think is
himself.
going to end up happening? He's going to try and go in 1v4, and he was just going to support his ass and get him through the fight. So it's not going to be a true 1v4.
But what if it was though? How would you feel?
Oh, I'd be pissed.
His team sitting on the side, Bakugo legit just walks in, takes them all out, and then he like comes back to his team with all of them like tied up, like here, throw him in jail, I'm done.
I don't think they'll actually do that. But
I mean, there's
really
no
hate
way
to see
because
that.
the main reason they can't do that is because you need to show off all like the whole point of this is showing us how these characters have grown, both in 1A and introducing us to 1B people. So you can't just have these 3 characters in 1A show no growth by not doing anything, right? But
Yeah, because I mean, Jiro's one thing. Jiro's had a lot of growth throughout different arcs.
yeah, she's always really
But
important when it comes to the scouting and that kind of shit. Like she's always doing something.
Yeah, then you have Sero, who they've tried to build him up in the past, saying like, oh, he's got really great mobility and all that, and he's really great at restraining. But then you have Sugar Rush.
And he's just kind of dumb.
Has he ever won anything?
Probably not. I'm pretty sure even I think even he lost fighting the teacher test.
Yeah,
thing.
he did. He was with Kirishima, and they just got overwhelmed.
Oh yeah, they got like early cucked by Cementos guy, right? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess he's gonna get a win here, but I don't know if he's 100% gonna earn it. But
I think they're gonna have him do something to make him look halfway decent.
there's basically 2 realistic outcomes, which is either Baku goes into 1v4 and then his team backs him up without his without him wanting them to, and they take away the victory, or Baku goes into 1v4, but it's actually part of a plan that Bakugo made to win with the team, and they actually do something else.
Now there is one other option.
What, they lose?
Well, no, Bakugo goes into 1v4. Well, that's an option too. Actually.
Baku goes into 1v4 and loses immediately, gets captured.
Yeah, then his team wins.
And then he has to learn some sort of humility. I don't think the show would do that to Bakugo, though. I don't know.
I don't think they would either, but I'd like to see it.
You know what? We'll find out in a couple days, I suppose. We'll have something to talk about next week when that shows up.
Yeah.
Right. I'm trying to. Okay, what do we got next?
Next up is Vivy.
And it was episode number 8.
Elegy dedicated with love, my one and only beloved partner.
Okay, so obviously the first thing I want to say, a sad goodbye to. I think we mentioned this last week. No Vivy subreddit anymore. I don't remember if we mentioned that last week, but if you're a fan of Vivy, make sure you comment down below. Let us know you're here watching it. I think this is one of the big ones of the season.
It is.
The second thing I'm going to say is I think this is going to be the first time we get a 3-episode arc.
Yeah, because that definitely wasn't an end to an arc.
That wasn't the end to an arc, and it feels weird because episode 1, like not a lot happened.
Yeah, that was more of a world building arc to show us where Vivy currently is.
Yeah, because even normally how it works is like in like the first like 5 minutes, Matsumoto comes in and establishes, hey, this is what goes wrong and this is what we need to fix.
Yeah.
But in episode 1, we didn't get that till like right before like the end, like right before credits.
Literally the last scene.
So obviously we finish off in the first episode of the arc, with Matsumoto explaining like here's what happens. Obviously after the whole event with the metal float, Diva went kind of psycho, had to be rebooted, that kind of stuff. So she's lost out on. She doesn't have any of the memories of the Singularity Project or Matsumoto, any of that kind of stuff. She's here to perform at this 12-year anniversary of the metal float thing, the Constellation concert, whatever it is, and then she meets the Ophelia girl. And then later Matsumoto comes in, and we learn that the reason Matsumoto's here is because this is the first case of a AI suicide. So Ophelia kills herself, and because of that, as we learned in this episode, it leads to a bunch of people being like, hey, listen, if an AI can kill themselves, it means they have like a soul and they have all these feelings.
It also led to a bunch of other cases of AI committing suicide.
Yeah, like we see like the one couple
taking
the couple taking the selfie, and there's a AI but to fucking land in the background, like
literal photobomb.
Yeah, but yeah. So I mean, the thing too is I think even Matsumoto mentioned that because of the whole like story, people like spread around rumors that it was because she lost her AI companion kind of thing, and that made her so sad she did it. So that shows how human they must actually be. So.
They were talking about how there was no reason for him to have shut down. He just kind of stopped working one day.
Yeah, which, sus now that we know the end. But in general, Matsumoto explains this to Diva, and, Diva kind of accepts it pretty fast, but she's like, you know what, I'll go talk to her. And Matsumoto's like, no, we shouldn't, all we have to do is, like, stop her from jumping, right? Like, and Diva's kind of like, no, that doesn't actually solve the issue, though, because then she could just do it again later. Like, she's like, I need to talk, we need to figure out what's wrong, get to the bottom of this.
Which was actually a pretty good point, because if someone's going to try and kill themselves,
yeah, it's a way better point.
Gonna...
I can at least see normally both her and Matsumoto come at things from different perspectives, but either one could actively work. Like Matsumoto's never wrong earlier. Like yes, if Estelle was gonna crash the thing, if you go in and kill Estelle, it's not the best way of doing it, but it's equally as an efficient way as the whatever Diva wants to do through the emotional means. But this one isn't though, because if you stop her from killing herself now, you cannot guard her 24/7. Unless you're like, hey, I thought like he was gonna be like, hey, what if we kill her? Then it's not suicide. So then, you know, like.
Let's just go blow her up. That way she can't kill herself, and no one has to know about this.
Realistically, Matsumoto, he's like very intelligent, but he doesn't really have like the emotional aspect to it. He could literally try to make it like staged an accident. So instead of like her killing herself, it's like, you know, she went to go do this and like something malfunctioned, or like, you know, walks into the warehouse and they drop a truck on her instead of dropping on a Diva, like what happened in the last episode. Like something that she dies still, so they don't have to worry about her all the time, but makes it an accident. There's just no like AI suicide.
Yeah.
Right?
They could have very easily done during the performance when she's like way up and towards the top, have her the thing malfunction and drop her head first.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's something I would have expected more from Matsumoto, because it solves your issue. But like not just stopping her, grabbing her before she jumps off, and like, oh no, you're not doing this today, lady. She could just do it tomorrow. Like
yeah, like we even got to see him like just show up. He's like, oh hello, I'm Matsumoto. This is a bad day to kill yourself. Please go back. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah. So you know, Diva does have the smarter plan. You know, being like, hey. How about instead I go talk to her, figure out why she wants to kill herself, and try and see if I can stop it. Matsumoto's like, what the fuck is that? But, you know, we see her go talk to her. We learn about like, kind of what we guessed last week. You know, she had the, what do they call it? Was it just a partner AI?
Partner and AI named Antonio.
Yeah, it controlled her. We see like a flashback. He controls her sound and lights and all that kind of stuff for her through all of her small little gigs at the beginning. You know, he obviously seems like a nice little guy. You know, she's always not very confident. He's like, no, like you were fantastic. He's like, it's just like you know, this crowd doesn't even deserve it. It's such a small crowd. It doesn't deserve all the singing and talent and stuff you have.
Yeah, like it's very much one of those old like singing coach stereotypes you used to see in cartoons.
Yeah,
just a very like boisterous like former opera singer type style.
Yeah, so you know he's very nice, but then we see Ophelia like ghost, like the shutdown version of him. It's almost like a little, you know, memorial for anything with the flowers and stuff like that. And that's where Diva kind of sees that she's like not sad. So she's like, you know, she's like, no, she seems like confident. She wants to fulfill her mission and that kind of stuff. And she's like, I don't think she's going to kill herself. So, and you're like, yeah, I can kind of, so once again, all that made me think is like, okay, this isn't going to be her killing herself. This is going to be that guy from Toke, wherever it is. And he's going to, you know, push her off the edge and make it look like a suicide because she wasn't going to kill herself.
Yeah, or hack her or like do something to orchestrate the situation.
Yeah, something along those lines, because I agree. But then also right there, you know, we see Matsumoto still trying to figure out what's going on when Diva runs into the guy she recognizes. She goes to follow him, and even while she's like, oh, I see him in this hallway, and he's like, oh, which hallway? And she points it out, and he's like, I don't see him there. And then, you know, as she runs into the area, Matsumoto then realizes also that like the footage he's being shown of like Ophelia chilling in the room is actually false because she doesn't have the flower. And he's like, I should have noticed this faster. Like, I can't believe I'm being hacked now. So he runs up, he flies up to the rooftop. So we're seeing both him flying up to the rooftop to confront Ophelia, and we see Diva running into the corner to confront a guy that she recognizes.
Yep.
Upon running into her, though, or like her running into him, you know, she just like pulls out this fucking laser gun or whatever the hell it is, and kind of takes her to commission. And that's
it was like a dart gun, I think. So
yeah, and that's like the last we see from her in this episode. And then, you know, we see Matsumoto get to the roof, confront Ophelia, being like, "Hey, don't kill yourself today." As you know, he makes himself slightly bigger, Matsumoto, with all the other boxes. You know, and then the reveal where, you know, she starts like laughing, seems a little more evil. We're like, oh no, it's evil AI. And she's like, you want to save Ophelia? You're too late because I'm actually Antonio. You know, like
complete with the voice change.
Yeah,
too. It was
completely
like, what?
Complete with the voice change. It was hilarious, and I'm like, oh, Nani, Antonio Kun. But there's also so you know, that's obviously has some implications. So we're gonna find out next episode what happened. The Antonio bot was jealous of the talent, took Ophelia out, and became her. I don't know, but we're gonna see next episode.
I mean, I'm willing to bet it's going to be something like, in order to fulfill his mission of making her known, he decided to just do it himself.
Yeah, I'm sure it's going to be something along those lines. But like, to me, the big questions are like, you know, how is this possible? You know, he just looked like a kind of shitty, like AI sound robot thing. Like, I didn't think it would work like that.
He looked like a Roomba mixed with a freaking mixing board. Like,
yeah, to just be able to go in and be like, I'm you now, and like inject himself into her. Obviously, we're gonna find out next episode. Did you? I really hope you watched the post credit scene because it wasn't even like a next
I
time.
did,
Okay.
yes.
So the post credit scene, we see a young boy learning piano from some shadowed figure, which I mean wasn't very shadowed when you saw like his head in the back. You're like, oh, he's learning piano from his piano master, and then we're seeing a scene where there's a big car accident. He's saved by his piano teacher, who is an AI. It looks like an early AI too.
One of the first generation from the looks of it.
Yeah, and then the kid's like, no, like don't do this. Like, your job, you just teach piano. And he's like, well, my job's to make you you happy. And he's like, and that's easier when you're alive. And then we see him go back to save a few more people before eventually he dies. The robot explodes. And then this boy looks to be the the guy from Toke that we've seen before.
Which is a really interesting development for him, that he was like, he loved this guy who was teaching him piano. And because he died, he hates AIs now.
Yeah, I feel like there's got to be more to this guy. The big questions here is that there's still the conundrum of this guy looks too young, right? So we know that this is definitely his backstory because the stage the AIs are at. Where like these are the first AIs we've seen other than like Diva before. She was the first actual like good one. These were all the ones we used to see before. But the one we're currently seeing in like the modern timeline with Diva looks too young to be the guy.
He looks younger than the last time we saw him.
Yes, which leads to questions. As I predicted last time, I think it's possible it's actually an AI and it's going to be like a Diva counter, or a Diva foil, or something along those lines. Or it could just be, his son, or maybe he shaved and just looks really young now. Like, I don't 100% know.
He's just really on top of his skincare regimen.
But it does lead to the question still of why does this guy hate AIs? And does he actually really hate AIs? Maybe he doesn't.
Like, maybe he was anti-Toke and he was working against them, or maybe he just wanted to like free them from their mission.
Like it's possible. It's possible that like a lot of it is just maybe he like is a pro AI guy in like a sense, but he doesn't believe that AIs. He thinks if anything they should be more human without having like one mission to fulfill, because it leads to them stuff like them dying and stuff like that. He thinks they should just decide what they want to do themselves, or maybe there's even a possibility he knows the future. He knows about the AI war. Maybe he's also maybe he has his own Matsumoto, and maybe he's been an AI this whole time. Like there's so many twists lined up. I can't tell you what they are, but there's still the fact that he looks younger than we've seen him last time makes me curious.
Yeah, because it's not even like there's an art style change or anything like that. It's just he looks younger.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have the scruff. He very much looks back to like the first time we saw him, where it was kind of like implied he was like a decently young man, like kind of new-ish to like the job.
Yeah.
But the most recent times we've seen him, it's been, as I said, it's been at least 12 years since the metal flowed, and at that point he looked like he was probably into his 30s. So he would not be looking this young at this point. So it leads to questions. I feel like it's going to be a counterpart to Diva in a sense. I don't know if it's if he was like a person they made in the last like 12 years, they made an AI that would trying to have like his goal, that would have like a mission to like stop AIs kind of thing. I'm not 100% sure. I'm sure we'll learn more next episode. Obviously, Diva being a captive of him, while we're also learning more about the Antonio Ophelia situation from Matsumoto's point of view.
True.
So I don't know. I'm excited for that because I feel like there's got to be a twist with him, because it doesn't make any sense that
there's going to be more to it.
He can't just be like saved by an AI, and then since then he's been saved by a different AI like 4 times, and he's still like, I fucking hate those robots. Right?
Like, maybe he's just got a lot of pride. Like he's really mad that they saved him.
I mean, I doubt that. I feel like it's got to be more of a he's going about things in like a wrong way to try to achieve something that he thinks is positive for him. Like, he doesn't think, if he considers them, because of that, he considers them kind of having like their own soul. If anything, he thinks that like they should not be made even just to die for like their missions and shit like that. So maybe he just wants to end AIs altogether. Yeah. I don't know. Something is going to come up. I'm sure we're going to learn a bit more next episode. Seeing as Diva's his capture, and what do you have when you capture? You got a monologue.
Yeah, we're gonna get some backstory next episode.
Diva's got to be like, "Why are you doing this?" And he's like, "Well, let me tell you in a full monologue with some flashbacks," and he's gonna explain.
Yeah, and this is someone who's obviously met her before, because he referred to her as Vivy.
Yes, and I think he even said like, "Oh, we meet again" or something like that.
Yeah.
Long time no see. God. I don't know. I'm very excited for the next episode. I want to see this guy's story.
There's one more thing I want to touch base on.
What's that?
When Matsumoto was talking about what happened to Diva in the past, did you see what she looked like?
Yeah, she looked
when
fucked.
She was on the ground. Did it look like to you like she shot herself?
Like, she had like the hole in her like cheek side.
Yeah.
I don't know, because I mean, like,
I'm kind of wondering if she was actually the first suicide.
I mean, that would be kind of fucked. You know, like she like to kind of panics and like, you know, she like picks up his gun and like shoots. But I mean, that'd be a really fucking terrible shot to go through like her cheek. She has to like angle that thing really bad.
We don't know what AI anatomy is. For all we know, the chip is like right in between the two cheeks.
I mean, maybe it's possible. To me, I always just took it more as like it was a complete mental shutdown.
That's what I was thinking until they showed that shot. So
yeah, I don't remember. Did she look? Because I'm trying to. She obviously got a little bit messed up in like the fight and stuff like that, but I don't think she looked that bad.
Yeah, I don't think she had. I don't think there was a hole in her cheek. Is the main thing I pulled away from that. So
yeah, I don't know. I think that obviously, I think that Matsumoto is more attached than he lets on. I think that was a big point in the last episode.
Oh, he definitely.
When
is.
they're thinking about like what her having the partner AI, and he was thinking about like if he's the partner to Diva, and he's trying to be all cool about it. Like as soon as that happened, I decided to let her go. I think a lot of that was more like. It was for her, if anything like that. He's like, oh, she can't take this. I'm not going to work with her anymore because, like, even though he doesn't want to admit it, he cares more about her than he thinks.
Oh, he definitely does.
So I'm pretty sure.
Matsumoto caught feelings.
I'm pretty sure a lot of it's going to be, if anything, that maybe he even there, like, because they were in a factory that like makes and fixes AIs and stuff like that. I think that if anything, he is the one who like fixed her and then like rebooted her to forget the memories to try and help her, kind of thing. While he's in this metal float with all this stuff, he might be able to do some of it.
It'd be pretty easy to fix her up because if she showed up in that condition afterwards too, I think somebody would have noted it.
Yeah, so I think that if anything, we're gonna find out that he fixed her up. He like rebooted her, made her forget these memories so she can live like a normal life because he kind of felt bad. And I think that we'll maybe find that out next episode. So that I'd be curious to see if they show back and she does actually shoot herself and it's like the first AI suicide, but then he saves her.
Yeah.
But we'll have to find out next week because that'll. I'm assuming that's something that'll be in this third and last episode of this arc. But yeah, if you guys have any thoughts or theories on Vivi or Vivi or whatever the hell you want to call it, let us know down below. And as always, just comment. Just comment if you're watching the episode. That way, we don't have the subreddit anymore, but I still like to see who's actually here watching it with us.
Yeah.
And we will be back next week for episode number 9. We're getting far in. It might only be an 11 to 13 episode show, so.
Yeah, I don't know how far they're going because they're already over 50 years now, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're already halfway through the cycle.
Yeah, and since we've seen before, stuff sped up a lot from what they did, so it might not be 100 year anymore. It might only be 70 year until the war. Like, you never know, but...
True.
Okay. Next up, though, this week is the 86, episode number 6.
Through to the end.
So, this episode was kind of slow, I think, compared to a lot of the other ones more recently.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah,
like
it had no huge fight scenes, but
yeah, it had a little bit. It had some important information, but a lot of it, I think, was just like once again, it wants us to really get to know some of these characters before they die. I think it's all it is.
Yeah,
like a big portion of this is just we see the crew, at like a bridge, and they're like, "Hey, remember the last time we were here, right? Like when our squad was formed." And you get a big flashback of them all chilling, meeting each other. Some for the first time, some were in the same group before.
And a few of them are characters we've never actually seen before.
Yeah, a few of them are, and a few of them are a couple characters we know now. And obviously we've seen. I think his name's like, he's the Black Dog one. I really the hell his name is, but I can't remember what.
Black Dog, yeah, I think.
Yeah, something like along that. And he obviously has the crush on like Anbu or whatever like that. The girl with like the purpley hair.
Anju, yeah.
We've seen that a few times. Not it doesn't bode well for him in the episode when we're like, oh yeah, let's learn more about this character. Who does he like? Yeah.
Yeah, here's the death flag.
Yeah, I'm like, ooh, is he dead or is she dead? This is the fun question of the day.
Yeah, one of them is not making it out.
So yeah, a lot
Honestly,
of
they
it,
killed the character I wasn't expecting. So
yeah, a lot of it was just like, hey, look at these flashbacks, look how these characters met, like all this kind of stuff before they eventually get into a fight in the episode, and we lose 2 characters. So
yeah,
one
in short order too.
Yeah, so the Black Dog guy, he gets like mostly taken out. He's
no, it wasn't Black Dog. The first one to get hit was Echo, the girl.
Yeah, but she doesn't. She goes out in a slightly different way. I mean, to be fair, they both die technically by being shot, but
yeah. The circumstance was Echo got hit and she was getting surrounded, so Black Dog went out to get her, and then he got fucked.
Yeah, and then she shot herself in the head.
Yeah,
and then he gets kind of taken out, and as the battle ends, we see Shin go over there. And he explains on the thing, he's like, hey, you might want to disconnect for this. And she's like, no, I'm not going to disconnect. Yeah. And he kind of explains to me, like, okay, like, I don't want, like, as we know, like, their brains are like that basically used. So to prevent that, he goes to give him a little bit of a double tap in the head.
Yeah.
We see that, and then he like explains, and she kind of imply that he's done this a lot, like that's what he always has to do, kind of thing. And she's like, "Ooh,
Mm.
that must be hard. That must be semi difficult." And then even after that,
Yeah.
we see them go back to a regular day where everyone's trying to laugh and smile and have a good time and pretend that it's fine because that's just what they do, right? They basically imply they know that like every single one of them is going to die from this. It's like when's it going to happen? So you just have to keep living. We even see like the Anju girl having a hard time. We see her fake some smiles, but definitely not very happy on the inside.
Yeah.
He says some last words to her. We don't get to see them, but we could probably guess what they were because they do the classic. They like mute out for the audience, and then we also see even in that fight, they mentioned that like if only they had like mortar assistance, and it could have been different. Like those two characters might not have died. And then we see the main girl, like Lena, whatever her name is. She goes to the commander guy and she's like, "Hey, listen, like, can we get some of these mortar assists and that kind of stuff?" And he's basically just like, "No." He's like, "We're not going to risk our own men to do this." He's like, "What? No one's going to do that." He's like, "We currently have 0 casualties, so we're not going to put our own men near like the front lines to use this mortar stuff." Just once again showing how like, fuck the situation is. I was half expecting her to try to maybe explain in this how like the war's not going to just end.
Yeah, some sort of like, hey, by the way, we are screwed if you don't start helping.
Yeah, because I mean, like you might want to do it sooner than later. Like I understand that maybe she doesn't want to mention it because that kind of changes how a lot of the world works, and they also might not believe her because she was just told by some 86. So
yeah, it'd be more likely that she'd end up getting sectioned than anyone actually believing her. So
yeah, but I feel like at some point she's got to let someone know because just her trying to do it with the current 86 she has when they're getting as we learned they're getting no new squad members, so they're slowly just losing them all while not refilling any of them. They're getting no assistance, and
they don't have anyone to replace them with at this point, right? So
and then, even in this episode right after that, he then gives them a command to go attack a new like base kind of thing that was put up.
Yeah, so I think it's still under construction, but yeah.
Yeah, and then even there, like even when she says that, she's like, "You expected me to do this with no people, like with the little people we have." And then even when she tells Shin about it, he's like, "Yeah, it's almost certainly a trap." And she's like, "You're gonna do it anyways, even though you know it's a trap." And he's like, "Yeah," he's like, it's better to do it this way before instead of it coming up." So
yeah, it's better to do it before it becomes a problem. But they even talk about how the Legion is like learning and like adapting to their strategies. So it's expecting ambushes now, so it's mortaring all their hiding spots. So
yeah, so things are not looking good.
Yeah.
I'm assuming we're going to get some more nice character deaths next week. I can't wait to see which death flag they gave us when we start the episode.
Yeah, who do you think it's going to be?
Maybe girl who likes Shin.
Oh, Gunslinger?
Yeah, she's like kind of like not like red, but like brown hair, and orange hair. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's Gunslinger.
I don't think we're ready for Laughing Fox yet, and we're not ready for cool. Is Black Dog like his like closer friend guy with like the scar?
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, Werewolf, I think.
Yeah, whatever one he is. I don't think it's going to be him yet or Laughing Fox yet. I think we're going to save them for a little bit. But it might be girl who has a crush. It could be other kind of normal protagonist-looking kid.
He's possible. I wouldn't be surprised if they killed Anju.
Yeah, I guess maybe she goes a little. Maybe she's upset and she'd just rather die now, so she kind of goes a little bit more hand than usual, or takes risks, or she saves someone else because she thinks that she doesn't need to live now, anyways. I wouldn't be too surprised. But yeah, in general, like I feel like when I'm describing this episode, it doesn't sound like a lot happened, but a lot of it's really just the flashbacks trying to be like, hey, these are all the characters. Look how many have died, and now get ready for all the other ones to die. So it's trying to get us more attached.
Bit of oh, sorry.
No, I was just saying it's just trying to get us more attached, right?
Oh God, yeah. They did give us a little bit more backstory on the Undertaker symbol, though.
Yeah, so I mean, we saw before from the original Brothers machine, it looked very much, it was like the same figure kind of, except for he had like the sword on the back. It was basically like, I think he might have had like different color on it too, but it's pretty much a humanoid figure doing like the same pose. It was just, he had like a sword on the back, and then Undertaker's instead he has the shovel and he's missing the head.
Yeah. Was he always missing the head? I feel like in the first episode it had a head. Maybe I just felt that in.
I was gonna say he must have always been missing the head.
Okay.
Because even in this, right, in this episode, we see him have some weird like flashbacks and dreams and all that kind of stuff. A lot of it's like his brother like yelling at him like, I hate you or whatever like that, or I'm gonna kill you. So there's something that happened with him and his brother that we're missing, because he keeps asking. He's like, oh, like when my brother talked about me, like, was he happy? And she's like, oh yeah, he was like happy, he was smiling, all this kind of stuff. They're having conversations between like Shin and Lena, her being like, oh, you like when he gave her the chocolate and how nice of a guy he was and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But Shin obviously has some darker memories of something with him, and then obviously we see Shin as like a younger man going out, finding wherever the battle happened, finding his brother's machine and finding the body, but the body was missing the head.
Yeah.
So that at least that lets us know that when we do eventually see that character come in as what's going to be one of the commanders, we don't know. It's not just going to be like a kind of a mind control brother guy coming in, because he won't have a body. So I think it's literally just like a head and a brain
like a head
connected
mounted in a robot.
Yeah, I feel like it's just like a head or like a brain literally just like connected with wires on the inside of the machine. So
yeah, well, we don't even know if that's the case, because they talk about how like brains do rot, so it might be just the imprint of what he knew at the time.
Yeah. Obviously, yeah, so we mentioned that last week of the information. That's definitely going to be an outcome eventually. I don't know if that's going to be in this season, depending on how long it is, but
yeah, the most likely people we're going to end up fighting at some point are going to be his brother, Laughing Fox's former commander.
Yep.
And
main girl's father.
Probably, yeah, Lena's father. Yeah.
Those are like,
I remember her name for a second. It's like, wait.
Yeah, those are like, it's like Milen's something, very long last name.
Milen's,
so
yeah.
Yeah, so those are very likely outcomes. Those are better chances. Like either the father or like the Laughing Fox commander guys, to me, seem like higher chances of being in this season, and maybe like seeing some like sign of the brother or something, but not actually meeting him.
Yeah, because we got a little bit of the brother's information here. You heard a little bit of him talking, so.
Yeah, and it's just like it's like Shin obviously is having like some of these nightmares. To me, like the most important was the one where like his brother's like all extremely angry and like yelling and like that kind of stuff, which makes me think that something happened before like his brother went off to fight, because he's obviously curious, being like, oh, like when my brother spoke with me, like, was he like happy? And she's like, yeah, he was happy. So
yeah, and the brother when he's yelling, he specifically talks about it's your fault that mom and dad died. So
yeah, so
I'm kind of curious about.
I'm sure a lot of this is just
situation.
Shin was young and he probably blamed himself for whatever happened, even though his brother probably didn't. This is just like his imagination in a sense, but
yeah, it could be him just extrapolating the voice, or the voice using what he thinks is going to be most effective on them. So
yeah, as I said, most of this episode was just kind of getting us to like and to know a little bit more of the backstory with some of these characters, how they met, that kind of stuff, before slowly they're going to kill all of them. I think the next episode is going to be a lot bigger, with them going to this factory, which is a trap or whatever it is, and probably going to lose some more characters, probably going to get some more information about these commanders. Maybe one of them might be the one who set up a trap.
Definitely one of the commanders is going to be present. I don't know if we're actually going to see them go down or if they're going to retreat, but
yeah, either way, it's probably going to be big, because we're losing all these characters. So I feel like it's pretty early on. Like we're only in episode like 6, and I feel like they're already in a very shitty situation. So
I mean, they were always in a shitty situation based on the story. So.
I guess, but even early on though, the shitty situation obviously we knew was for the 86, but in general we thought like the world might still be fine, because their battery's going to die in like a year or whatever the hell it is. But now that we know that's not true, there's a lot more of a like an impact on what's happening. So I feel like they have to get a victory somewhere, but I just can't figure out how right now.
All their victories are going to be somewhat bittersweet. We're not going to get just a clean-cut, easy victory.
Yeah, like I feel like no matter what, someone's dying here, but maybe they do like meet the commander and take one out kind of thing.
Yeah.
Maybe Lena eventually convinces someone on the other side to be a little bit more nice and helpful. Like we constantly, every episode, I think we see her having a talk with her for one friend. And, we're learning like still more. It's like, yeah, her friend seems like a fine person, that kind of stuff. But she, just like everyone else, really doesn't give a fuck about the 86. And she's basically just trying to be like, leave all your problems behind. But I feel like they're giving us a lot of time with this friend, and also showing a lot about her like struggle to find a man and that kind of stuff. I feel like at some point, some of that has to have an impact somewhere in the story. I just can't figure out how yet. But they wouldn't spend
maybe
so
she
much
ended up
time.
introducing her to a nice 86 man and
maybe,
say, hey, this is the perfect man for you.
Yeah, maybe eventually she falls. Yeah, maybe eventually she falls in love with an 86, because we see that all of the men she's like either matched up with are either way too young or way too old. Because the one thing she implies, but she doesn't say it here, she says like, oh, about like what's wrong with like men our age or something like that, which I wasn't just either assuming is they're just like dicks or something like that, or something's actually like I don't know.
Yeah, she specifically says what, they're too childish.
Yeah, she kind of lets it drag off a little bit, and she's like as if she's gonna say something important. Then she's like, oh, they're childish or like that. I'm like, but half the people you're looking at dating are like literally children. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah, I feel like it's like a pseudo political marriage situation with her, because she's getting matched up with these people. It sounds like a lot of them are from the same family.
Yeah, well, a lot of it too is I think that the whole point is that like as we saw early on, all these like people because we did see a lot of men that looked more around their age like in this military place, but none of them give a fuck, right? They're like drinking in the day, like they have no worries,
Yeah.
they're not like doing anything. So I guess that's probably I feel like she's just not attracted to any of that. But I think eventually, when she meets a hardworking 86, it's really gonna turn all around. She's like, oh, now this is a man. Look at that. So
Yeah.
there's got to be something that eventually they don't want to spend so much time showing us her struggles with men and keep having conversations with her just for it to not go anywhere. But I can't exactly see how in the immediate future that's going to help, seeing as there really shouldn't be any mix between the 86 and those people.
Yeah, I mean, she might just be there to kind of show the disconnect and show how Lena does walk away from it. She just has like a normal life where she goes and eats cake with a friend.
Yeah, well, the 86 go back and have to pretend to be happy about their companions' deaths, or pretend happy in spite of their companions' deaths. Maybe not because of, but
yeah, not because.
Yeah, I think next episode's gonna be really big, though. I think we're gonna learn some more. We're gonna get some more fighting, obviously. I would be okay with. We haven't really had a really, really cool like full CGI fight scenes in episode 1. Like since that opening scene, I feel like they spent a big portion of the budget on that scene. But
yeah, we got a little bit of them hunting the black sheep. We got a little bit in this one involving the death scenes, but we haven't actually gotten to see a full battle start to end yet. So
yeah, so it seems like that's possible. We obviously think it's going to be a trap, just as Shin thinks it's going to be. But I think at least as someone dies, I'm hoping that we at least actually finally meet one of these commanders. Especially if the situation's a trap, setting up a trap takes a little bit more intelligence. It seems like something more a commander would do based off what Shin's told us. So
true.
I think we have that to look forward to next week, though. So if you're a fan of the 86, let us know down below. Leave a comment, theory, anything like that. As I said, we know nothing about any of the source material, so any theories, make sure you mark them with spoilers. That way people know. And we will be talking about episode number 7 next week. Next up is a big one. Tokyo Avengers episode number 6.
Regret.
So I feel like I'm definitely liking Tokyo Avengers more as the show goes on.
As they build this up and show us a little more facets, it's definitely getting stronger. So
yeah, so we know we pulled from last week that we finished off at the hospital scene, and basically just to remind us that Draken is like Mikey's heart, right? That's the important part, and it also shows Takemichi that like he doesn't believe the two of them will fight, so he doesn't think that them actually having this like battle is actually what happens like between the two of them. And we see him go. We see him go back. So we see him go. We don't see him actually go find Naoto and be like, "Hey, shake my hand, little buddy." We just see him back in the present timeline. So I mean,
I think he could very easily write off that he could very easily just visit his girlfriend. It's like, "Hey, little guy," and just shake his hand. But
what's up, buddy? Quick high five. Like, yeah, we just assume. I guess they don't want to show us every single time he does it now. The first time was funny because it was like a funny situation. But every time after that, we don't need to take time on that. But yeah, he goes forward. He explains to Naoto, he's like, no, listen, like, trust me, they do not fight. Like, that's not possibly the outcome. And Naoto's like, okay, let's figure this out then. And their way of doing that is they find the old leader of the Mobius, like back in those days. They track him down to his modern day, and they're like, okay, let's ask him questions. So we see this guy where he's like kind of like a broken man. He doesn't seem at all like he'd be like the leader of a gang. He's kind of like soft spoken, but we obviously see him panicking at some point. Like he even mentions, I think that like everything went wrong when Draken died, for them too. And he kind of mentions, and I think it's very obvious that it is a setup by the guy that we haven't met yet. The other,
the one who just kind of walked by Takemichi in that one scene.
Yeah, the other leader of modern day, Tokyo Manchi gang. Yeah, Tomon. The other leader of him, I think this is clearly a setup for him to somehow get into the like main of the gang and take Draken out. So I think that's pretty obvious to the audience, not quite obvious to the main characters yet. I thought maybe they'd think about that pretty early on, especially when this guy's like, "Oh, I can't tell you guys." Like, obviously it's like he's scared of someone's being controlled. It's like, oh, who would he be scared of? Clearly, it's not Mikey. Who else could it be? Maybe the other fucking leader that you guys know they shouldn't meet. Like,
yeah, because didn't Akun specifically say that he was one of his soldiers?
I think so.
Or did he say he was just a Toman soldier?
I think he just was like a Toman guy. He said he couldn't talk and all that kind of stuff. And like, we obviously see in that scene that the guys walk like listening from like the sidelines.
Yeah.
I still think there's a possibility that when we do meet this character eventually that he also can maybe go back and forth in time, just to, because, we don't know how the main character got this power and any of that, but I think it's possible. So
that is possible. I mean, I'd kind of appreciate if he's more just like the scheming type who's able to use that.
Well, I think that, I just think that having a villain, typically, it's like the Marvel thing, right? Having a villain who has like the same power as the main character, always leads to more. Like, the main character think he'll have a one up because he can go back and change things. But then like as he goes back, he realizes at some point that other things are changing too, and it's because the villain's changing it. It would just get crazy.
Yeah.
But either way, they speak to this guy. He's kind of soft spoken. They learn that like he basically says the same thing though, right? He says that because he's like, oh, if only Draken didn't die that day, right? Like even he's saying that. So
yeah, but he specifically says it was all part of this guy's plan to cause dissent in the Toman gang. So
yeah, and he's still mentioning that like August 3rd or like that. Like as far as we know, the date is August 3rd that this is happening. And then we see Takemichi just being like, listen, Naoto, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna stop this fight from happening no matter what. And Naoto's like, yeah, good on you, buddy. Give me the old shake. So they shake, they go back, and Takemichi he follows them, he finds them, and he goes in on their little gang meeting. And he's like, hey guys, don't fight.
Yeah, I wonder what he thought was going to happen because they kind of had a big reason to want to pick this fight.
Yeah, and like the thing is, we already know he's not the most intelligent. So like I don't really expect him to come with a plan, but like he could have with Naoto try to think of like, okay, how can we convince these guys not to fight? Like how can we do this? Or like try and convince them to fight on a different day. Maybe be like, hey guys, August 3rd doesn't work. Like, can we do like the 10th maybe?
I mean, I think he could have easily just gone in and said, like, okay, we're going to have the fight, but we need someone watching Draken because I think they're trying to kill him.
Yeah, he could. But I guess, like, at that point, they would have been like, how do you know this? And you would have to try to explain, being like, oh, like, I actually beat up a member of the crew the other day, and he let it slip that their plans to slay Draken.
I mean, it could have very easily just been like, hey, I was eating at a restaurant with my girlfriend, and I overheard some gang members talking about how they were trying to off Draken.
Yeah, that's true. Like he probably, but if he was smart, he wouldn't have went with a plan like that, right?
Yeah, that's
being like, okay, they're being like the secret plan of this. He could have been like, I overheard some people, and the entire plan is they're actually trying. They're not just trying to win this fight; they're trying to slay Draken so that they can sneak their way in or do something. Like he could have tried saying that, so at least they knew like a sense of it.
Yeah.
But in general, they're like, nah, fuck, like the one Pa or whatever the hell his name is. He's just like getting real mad. Yeah. He's getting real mad at Takemichi for even trying because it was obviously his friend that all this shit happened to. And then Draken kind of stands up and defends Takemichi again, and then even like you see Mikey get a little mad, being like, "Oh, are you going against me, Draken?" And then that if anything kind of shows hints that like maybe like Takemichi stepping in is actually what causes some sort of rift between the two of them.
Yeah, which I mean that wouldn't have happened originally, but it's something that could have very easily like Draken could have had some sort of inciting incident that caused him to say, like, okay, Mikey, we need to chill out for this fight.
Yeah, I mean, even then, it's not like Draken's not saying that they're not gonna fight, but at least he's like willing. He's like, oh, well, let's at least hear him out, kind of thing, right? Like everyone else is just like no, and Draken's like, oh, let's hear what the dude has to say. Like, there's nothing to lose. And Mikey gets mad, being like, oh, like, are you not listening? Like, oh, are you taking his side? Like, we can see him clearly getting mad because like once Mikey decides something, it's happening. And I think even Takemichi sees that. Like Mikey explains, being like, listen, I understand. He's like, but like once I decided this fight's happening now. And Takemichi's like looking, and he realizes that he's like, oh, there's not a fucking chance. He's like, I ain't gonna be able to convince this.
Yeah. And
then obviously at the end, we'll get into some of the smaller details in the episode. But obviously at the end of that conversation, we see the leader from Mobius come in, and he's like, hey, I heard that you guys were gonna try and fight us. Well, guess what? I got my whole fucking crew here, and they all walk in too.
Yeah. Just zero fucks given. We see like he looked a lot more badass before he broke, so
yeah, which I think we were expecting, right? Like obviously he's like a broken man in the future, but obviously when they go back, he's the leader of like he's like the eighth leader of the generation, or the hell it is. He's got like the full tracksuit on, the blonde hair, he's got the baseball bat. Or I guess I don't know.
Yeah, I was kind of expecting almost like a Patsy look.
Mm-hmm.
Like the guy who's a leader in name only, but he definitely sold that he was the leader of this gang, so
yeah, and so like there's a couple things here. It's like, okay, so like if they're coming here, like that means the fight is not gonna be on August 3rd now. Is this what originally happened, or is there something different in the current timeline? Like it's possible. Yeah, it's possible the information's wrong in the future, right? Like it's very possible that, like the fight on August 3rd wasn't the fight between them and Mobius. Like it's possible that whatever happens here was always going to happen at this date, and then it leads to a different fight being on the 3rd that maybe was between Draken and Mikey somehow.
The information in the future said it was an internal fight with Toman.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
On the day that Draken died.
So it's very possible that the whole fight it was like August 3rd. So Takemichi kept thinking that they're gonna, especially because they made that date to go fight Mobius on the 3rd. But it seems like the fight's happening now, not on the 3rd. And then whatever happens from this could cause the internal strife that makes it so they try and fight each other on the 3rd. Like,
yeah, but even then, I don't know if Mikey would go so far as to kill Draken.
No, I mean Mikey definitely wouldn't kill Draken, but that's obviously part of the other bad guys, plan to get Draken
Yeah.
killed, and we don't exactly know even who stabs Draken or who actually does the deed.
Yeah.
But that's kind of where that's where like the episode leaves off. So that's obviously gonna be big next week. Side stuff in this, we learn about Draken's past. Right,
Yeah.
we see him grow up as a kid. Basically, he grew up in a brothel. So
Yeah, his mother was a prostitute who left him when he was 2.
yeah, so he grew up in the brothel. We see he's in like fucking 5th grade or something, and the kid gets a fucking head tattoo.
Yeah, 0 fucks given. He's got like the shaved sides with the blonde hair. He's like, yeah, just give me a temple tattoo. It's like, what the fuck?
He literally walks by at the one point. Some of like the prostitutes are like that. And they're like, "Oh, do you want like a quick tug before you have to go to school?" And he's like, "No, thank you." And he like leaves. I'm like, "What the fuck? What is going on?" I hope that was a joke. I hope that was like a family joking with each other kind of situation.
Like I don't even know, because like I'm confused by the fact that his mom fucked up the other prostitutes. Are like, well, guess we have a kid now.
Yeah, I don't know.
Is that what happened?
It seems like there's like, hey, you're part of the brothel family now, so.
Yeah, we're gonna raise you to be an enforcer and go kick the crap out of people who overstay. Like,
But yeah, so obviously we see that he grows up like relatively hard. He even mentioned that like he goes to school and like all the people are like, oh hey Ken Kun, whatever his name is, and he's like, yeah, it's Draken now, and like it shows that he's kind of like the tough kid at his school. We even see that he said he was big for his age too, so he'd even fight like middle schoolers and stuff like that. But then we see he's talking to these kids that are older, and he even mentions that like once they like kicked his ass, so he kind of like works with them or for them now, and they're all like, yeah, we heard this kid named Mikey Kun is causing trouble, like go bring him to us. And he's like, okay, and he goes finds Mikey and he's like, this can't possibly be the kid, right? This just seems like a normal kid. And he's like, hey, come with me. And Mikey's like, okay, I'm down. He's like, let me just go put my shit at school real fast first. And then literally upon just being like, hey, I brought Mikey Kun, Mikey just does a full fucking jump kicks and like breaks the dude's nose. And then all the kids run away. And Draken's like, damn, this kid's cool. And Mikey's like, hey, why are you working for these fucking losers when you're so cool? He's like, be my friend. And Draken's like, yep.
I mean, that's a pretty obvious choice right there. It's like, yeah, nope. I can keep with these fuckers, or I can go with Mikey. It's like,
Yeah, so we see the start of their little friendship, which is, it's nice to see. And then I think the only other really side information we get in this is we see that when Takemichi does go back to the past, he starts on a bike with Akun, and Akun basically explains, like, he's like, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? And Akun's like, I'd like to be like a hairstylist. And he's like, yeah, he's like, fucking do that. He's like, promise me you'll do that. He's like, I'll be your first customer. Because he's just like, I really don't want Akun to be killed. He's like, I need to get him out of this life. He needs a dream to work towards.
That is true. I'm kind of surprised they all ended up as soldiers, but because they kind of didn't do shit the whole time, right?
Yeah, even like currently we don't see them with any interaction with the gang still at all.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's obviously that could happen, but we don't know exactly what Takemichi's doing when he's on like autopilot mode in the future kind of thing. So
yeah, he might be like, hey, Akun, you want to go become a gang member?
Yeah, or it could even just happen. Like they're not very like old at this point. Like are they what, like first year of high school or something?
I think they're second years.
Yeah, so they're not very old, so they still have plenty of time to become gang members. Tons of time. Don't worry, no rush.
Sure.
but yeah, obviously there's still a lot of questions, like, with the whole date situation, with the fight that goes on, with Draken dying, the fight, the apparently internal struggle between Toma, and all these kind of things. Like we still don't exactly understand how they happen. And then there's also the big question of like, are these the way things are currently playing out? Are these the same way that they were going to originally? Like, or since shit has changed, has this changed? Like maybe there is no fight on August 3rd now because of everything that happened. The fight is now just moved up to this date.
Yeah.
Or was the fight always on this date? The information in the future is just wrong, and then there's the internal strife after on the 3rd. Like, there's all these kind of questions to see what's actually changed.
Yeah, because the gang theoretically runs that part of Tokyo, so they could very easily have just had the press print something incorrect for a connection, and
yeah,
it's like, hey, this is the reason this middle schooler died. It wasn't us.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't. It was an internal strife. It wasn't our gang stabbing him to death. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, it's hard to predict things. We don't know exactly, if this is the original outcome. Like, if Takemichi's really made any impact to make things change. Like, I don't really know if he has, to be honest, which makes me think it's probably, like, relatively the original time. Because like he hasn't really done enough that I would say would change the timeline to be like from August 3rd to this date instead, which makes you think this fight was always going to happen here, and then whatever fight happens on August 3rd is a separate thing.
Yeah, that makes sense, because the only thing he's actually made any major modifications to is him and his immediate friends being in that fight club.
Yeah, which I don't think have a very big impact overall. My question is, how do you think they're getting out of the situation right now? Because, I mean, there's like 5 of them or like 4 of them. And yeah, sure, like we know Mikey's a kick-ass fighter and Draken's obviously good too. But like Takemichi sucks.
Yeah.
We saw that fucking Po guy or Pug guy just get immediately like almost taken out. Like he's still conscious, but he got like instantly punched by the one dude.
Yeah.
And they have like a shit ton of members here. Like, how are they getting out of the situation?
Yeah, we've got one guy we haven't really had any information on either.
Yeah, he was just like chilling. He was just like kind of nameless character in the background who was also there, unless he's just a fucking god of fighting.
Yeah, like for all we know, Mikey's just gonna like pull out his phone. It's like, okay, it's time. Like the Toman gang's just like all around.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, you fell for our trap card, and like, yeah, the Toman gang just comes out from behind the Mobius gang, and it's like time to brawl, boys. Or like, you know, maybe Mikey and Draken are so good they're just gonna take out a ton of members each, but
maybe.
Realistically, I don't 100% foresee that happening. I think the show is going to be slightly more realistic with their gang fights. Like, obviously, we've seen that Mikey's really good, but he hasn't done anything outrageous, right? He hasn't triple backflipped into, like, you know, taking out 9 people once. Sure, we've seen him do a nice jump kick, face kick on a guy, but, like, you know, he didn't, like, fight all 8 of those dudes at the same time. He just, like, nose kicked their one guy, and they all ran.
Yeah.
Like, all the fights seem semi-realistic at this point. There's nothing like, you know, one guy taking out 30 guys by themselves, you know? It's not like a kung fu movie yet at this point, so
yeah.
The other option is they just get their asses kicked. But I feel like they're not going to show us. They're not going to show like Mikey and Draken getting their asses just absolutely handed to them yet.
Yeah, I mean they're probably going to take some damage, like especially considering a lot of these dudes are armed.
There's the possibility that they get rescued by the guy who will become the other Toman leader eventually, and this was all part of his plan. You know, he comes in with some of his personal gang members and he saves them, and then they kind of join gangs. And this was like a plan by him to get in.
That would make a lot of sense actually. Then he causes the internal strife by like painting Draken as being like anti-Toman and
yeah. Basically, like that's to me seems like a good outcome. Like he comes in being like, oh, you know, I saw this going on over here and I thought I'd help you guys. And they're like, oh, good. Well, you're a friend of Toman now. And then, you know, he kind of gets his slow in and he uses it to try and poison Mikey against Draken. So
yeah,
I could foresee that happening. That seems like a good outcome to this, but either way, I suppose we'll kind of have to wait till next week to find out. We can only predict so much with the information we're given, but that would be my number one guess. True. Or we just see Mikey and Draken go apeshit and just take him out.
Before we know, Takemichi's going to do something cool too, because he gets into the gang at some point.
It's true, so. But I can't predict him doing anything too cool yet.
I mean, technically, all he has to do is beat the shit out of the main guy, right? So
yeah, you think he's going to be able to do that?
Lucky punch? I don't know.
I mean, maybe at some point we just see like Draken about to get stabbed and he just jumps in the way. You know, he just takes the stabbing for him. I mean, it's possible. Yeah. It's one of those like, you know, the main character gets like a cool looking win without actually having to be good at anything, other than just like, and then Draken will respect him more. But I don't think we're at that point yet. I don't think the Draken's going to be stabbed here. I still think that's going to happen on whatever thing happens on August 3rd. So my prediction is going to be that other bad guy steps in and, you know, does the fake, you know, he set this all up to try and join the gang and get in. So that's my prediction, but we will not find out if that's true or not till next week. So stay tuned for episode number 7 next week. If you like this episode of Tokyo Revengers, let us know down below. You know, leave us a comment about it, any theories. If you do have any spoilers based off the manga series already, just make sure you spoiler tag them as always. Next up on the list is one that came out yesterday, which is Higehiro, episode number 7.
Yearning.
What? Who's yearning for what? Is this about Mishima, like the girl?
I guess.
So obviously, like,
I don't know. I didn't name it.
We have like the two perspectives. So I believe his name is Yoshida, is the main character.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
You know, he's at work. He's getting some text from Sayu, and a lot of his perspective is we're seeing like Mishima, like his fellow girl coworker, just getting fucking mad and jealous, right? Like we see him getting texts, and she's like,
yeah,
I don't even have his contact info. And then we see Gojo or whatever her name is, like come over and, you know, get close to him and talk to him, and she's kind of jealous at that too. You know, and then she invites her out to lunch, and at the lunch she basically just confirms, she's like, oh, so you're in love with him? And she's like, I am, yeah. And then, you know, we're seeing her be all like, I'm not gonna lie, I hate this girl. Okay, She annoys the shit out of me.
I get what you mean. She's very clingy, I guess.
She also says a lot. She talks a lot, but like nothing she says it matters at all. Like it makes no impact. It's the same thing. Like I didn't like her the one episode outside the convenience store. She's yelling at Yoshida about how like he needs to consider whatever he wants more than like trying to protect a girl, like trying to protect the young girl and that kind of stuff. And in this same episode, like in her whole conversation with like Gojo or whatever, and she's like, her voice gets really like picked up, and then she has to be like, hey, calm down, like we're out in public kind of thing. I'm like, what really did she say that had any impact there? Like trying to tell me what she really said that mattered.
Yeah. All she really said was like, you're just hoping everything works out, and
it was kind of like, it's kind of like the same conversation she had with him and everything like that. She like wants everyone to like plan out everything based off what they want instead of just like allowing things to happen. She's like, oh, shouldn't you be like going after him harder and whatever? And Gojo's like, she's like, oh, what if he falls in love with Sayu? And she's like, well, if it happens, it happens. And she's like, no, that's not acceptable. Like, calm the fuck down. Like,
yeah.
So
I feel like this girl's lost shit in the past, and she just doesn't want that to happen again.
Yeah, probably.
She's got her own little trauma, so
obviously she's in love with the main character. Even like before she fully admits it in this episode, we can obviously see that. She goes out.
Yeah, she just straight up confessed. Like I was not expecting that.
Yeah, she goes out, invites him to a movie. He's like, I can't. Like Sayu has something special prepared for dinner, and she's like, okay, can I have your contact info though? And then he's like, okay, like sure, but like, well, I'm not good at texting people back or anything like that. And then she basically goes off into another conversation that means nothing, basically just accumulating with also I love you. And he's like, okay. And she's like, yeah. So, and then she like sends him a text being like, hey, can we go see a movie at a different time? And he's like, sure. And she's like, haha. And then she like leaves. I'm like, okay, good. Like all you accomplished this episode was getting mad at a girl for like nothing. And then yes, you confessed at least, which is good, but I still hate you. So
yeah, especially considering like that whole interaction could have been just summarized as like, okay, can we go some other time?
Yeah. So that's all that happened. She confessed to him. The main character didn't even have like inner monologue or anything about it. He's just like, okay. He's like, he
just kind of accepted it, just like, cool.
Yeah, I still think from this whole situation, like everything she said to him, the only thing he's really self-reflecting on, he's like, and this is the classic, like to me it doesn't matter. He's like wondering if he's doing a good thing for Sayu or if he's doing a good thing because it feels good to him to do a good thing. And I'm like, is there really a difference though? Like doing a good thing to feel good yourself, like people try to point that out like it's wrong. I'm like, is that wrong though? Like if you're doing a good thing for a good reason to feel good, like oh no.
Yeah, would you rather they do a bad thing to feel good?
Yeah, it's like, oh, I sure do feel good when I donate to charity. Like, okay, well that's a win-win. You feel good, charity gets money. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
So I don't.
Yeah, I don't need to be guilt tripped over donating to cancer research. Like, fuck off.
That's really the only thing is in his mind. He's kind of thinking about that. He's like, why am I doing this good thing kind of situation? And then the other part of the episode is really just Sayu still talking with her friend at work and that kind of stuff. And we see a black fancy car keeps pulling up at the convenience store and not coming in or doing anything, which is a little bit sus. Until eventually in the episode, the black car does pull up and come in. And then when she sees the guy leaving the car, she panics a little bit. Guy from last episode comes in and helps her a little bit.
Yeah, he steps up. He's like, yeah, don't worry, go in the back. I'll talk to him.
Yeah, he's like, go in the back. I'll deal with this kind of thing. And she's like, okay. So he goes in the back. We see this character come in, hand the business card. Obviously, we know that he has the same last name, and he mentions that like it's like her brother kind of situation. Or she mentions that it's her brother. Yeah. And he's looking for her. And she's kind of panicking, and then the guy comes in. He's like, "Oh, it's cool. I sent him away," kind of situation. And she's like, "Oh, why'd you help me?" He's like, "Oh, I just hate guys like that." She's like,
it's just like I hate rich dudes with power. It's like, okay,
yeah, it's like I hate rich guys who think they can use their power to do whatever they want. Like, did you not just try to harass a woman last time using your power? Like, what do you mean, guy?
To be fair, he didn't do that with money.
I guess he's like, I hate when people harass people by using money. I much prefer when they use their their male,
blackmail.
Yeah, their gender, like, yeah, interesting, but good for him or whatever like that. Really stepping up. Show's trying to redeem him. We obviously see her we see her having like a slight panic attack, being like, I don't know why I thought that I would get to choose when I come back. She's like, it's not up to me at all. He's like, they're finding me, that kind of stuff. So
yeah. The
only other really important thing is we see before this situation happens, she has her dinner with the main character, with Yoshida. She finds a box. It's a little bit of information of him like dating a girl in high school when he was a shaved head boy. And basically, he just explained he explains that like she thought he was too clingy, And she's like, "Oh, were you like, were you too clingy?" And he's like, "No." He's like, "I just like, he's like, I liked her, so I wanted to spend time with her." And he basically is just going over like why that's not weird. And I think that you can definitely see that she's obviously developing, pretty strong feelings for the main character, as we already suspected. Which isn't too shocking. He's obviously been like one of the nicest guys she's met, so that's obviously gonna kick in something in her.
Yeah, I think at this point we can establish he might be the only decent person she's known that's male. So
I feel like in the next episode, shit's gonna hit the fan pretty fast though, because I feel like once again she's gonna be too worried about him versus herself. So she's gonna be worried if the brother's looking for her that they're eventually gonna find out where she lives, and it's gonna be with him, and he's gonna get in a lot of trouble. So we might see her not ready to go home to try and run away again, so the brother can't find her this time, and then he can't get in trouble for holding her. So I won't be too surprised if we get something like that next episode in the plot.
Do you think we're going to get to see Yoshida's old girlfriend show up at any point?
Oh, we have to, right? But he's already got 3 women at this point. How many more can he get?
I mean, usually the average is 4 to 6, so...
Yeah, I suppose. I don't know. I feel like the show... I guess it's possible. There's also like his friend, like the male friend, is also in the opening a lot as like part of the crew, but we're not really seeing him as part of the crew.
He's probably going to be like the sounding board whenever he has problems, because that's what ended up happening with like the cell phone. Did you see?
They don't initially. So they don't have a next time on, but they have like a picture that says like the next title. Did you see what it was?
I didn't see it this week. No.
Festival, baby. We got a festival episode. My favorite type. So I don't know exactly how that's going to play out with like what the current plot is, but the
brother's going to be at the festival and.
Almost certainly. I feel like at some point we don't know the intentions of the brother yet. It's very possible we get a nice peaceful resolution where the brother meets Yoshida, realize that he's not a bad guy, and like being like the brother, not like the parents. Like a lot of times in shit like this, you have like the parents just like they think they know what's best for like the child and they're gonna do whatever they want. But the brother character might be a little bit more understanding.
Yeah, he might meet Yoshida. It's like, okay, I just wanted to make sure she wasn't in danger or a really bad position.
Yeah, like
you seem cool.
Yeah, he might meet Yoshida, be like, okay, wait, like you're not like having sex with my sister. That's check number 1. You're convincing her not to like. You're trying to teach her how to respect herself. That's good. She has a job. Like you're clearly doing right. So like I'll allow her to stay with you and won't tell my parents for a little while.
Yeah.
But
yeah, you're better than our parents. So yeah, cool. Keep doing you're doing it. But if I find you sleep with her, I'll kill you. Or some shit like that.
Now the big question before we move on is how do you think this show is going to end? The big question everywhere, not really how it's going to end, but are the 2 main characters going to get together?
I was having a conversation in the comments about this. I don't know if it was last week or the week before. I really, really don't want them to end up together. I think it kind of undermines everything they've done.
I'm almost certain they will, but I think how they're going to do it is I think there's going to be a time skip.
Yeah, wait until she's old enough that she can legally consent, and then...
Yeah, I think if anything, it's not just about her being old enough to legally consent, too. I think it's about her having to grow on her own, too. Yeah. I feel like, at like whatever the last episode of the show is going to be, I feel like there's going to be a point where, she has to leave, she finally returns home, she finishes high school, she goes on, she does other school, or she gets a job. Yeah. Stuff like that, and eventually she meets back up with the main character, and now that she's learned to be by herself like that, she still has like the feelings for him. And maybe then it works out. Like I feel like that's the most classy way the show could possibly put them together.
Yeah, that would be how you could have them get together and have it be tasteful. It'd still be a little weird.
It always is, right? It still reminds you of like the shit where like a grown man finds a girl and like he teaches her how to grow up like a father, and then eventually dates her. You're like, I don't like that one bit.
But, yeah, it's just weird.
So. I mean, it's a little bit less weird because at least she's already like, she's already like 16 or something now at least. And if you wait till far in the future, it's not like he met her when she was like 5, because that'd be way worse. And then waited for her to turn 18 or something. Yeah, I mean, still not the classiest outcome, but it's definitely the best they could do if they decide that the story, that's what they want, to put these 2 main characters together.
Yeah.
It's the best way to go about it, but I can't 100% say if I think that's how it'll end or if it'll just end with them being friends and, he does end up, dating one of the other 2.
Yeah, I'd very much like him to either end up with Gojo or the clingy one, and then have her just stay as like almost like a daughter relationship.
Yeah, but I feel like that's, I don't know. I don't foresee it happening. I do foresee them getting together, but I hope they use some sort of time skip at least to do it, so that she has not even so that she's older, because realistically, as long as it's like 2 years, and she's like at least 18, it would technically be fine. But I just want her to grow on her own first, like learn how to, instead of always relying on him, to learn how to rely on herself. And it's not even about the age. I just need her to really do that first, so it's less of like a You know,
Yeah, become an actual person before she commits to being with this guy who picked her up off the street.
Yeah, exactly. So that would be my hope for the ending if that's the way they decide to go. I'd be just as happy though if they decide that he's just gonna go with Gojo instead. Not as happy if he decides to go with the other girl because she's annoying. So she doesn't deserve love. I'm saying it right now. She sucks. Worst girl. Maybe she falls in love with his best friend. Maybe he comes in a few episodes later and she likes him. Give him a little bit of love.
Yeah, he just rolls up. I love clingy girls. Come on, let's go home. And say
exactly. That's like his favorite type. So maybe. But either way, I think next episode is going to be a much bigger episode to talk about. Possibly, like the festival makes me think it's going to be a little bit more relaxed than I think it should be. But that might just be the setting. There might be a lot of plot that happens at this festival.
Yeah, it could be a lot of internal strife as well, with her debating like, should I leave to protect him or should I keep going with what I'm doing?
Yeah. I think in my mind, I'm thinking of like slice of life festival ones are always just like, fun ones. There's a little bit of flirting and that kind of stuff. But I feel like this one's gonna have a little bit more serious plot inside of it. But
yeah, probably.
I'm always down for a festival episode though, so I look forward to that next week. As always, if you have any thoughts, theories, or if you want to guess how you think the show's going to end without spoilers, you can leave that down below in the comments section. Next up and last on the list, of course, is To Your Eternity, episode number 6.
Our goals.
So it was the episode we saw the next time. So a lot of the episode focuses around Fushi staying with the old lady, traveling with her, and learning, right? He's learning mainly like language, so he's learning, words in the simplest way. She's literally like points at a fish, and she's like, fish, and he's like, fish, and she's like, got it. And it's a lot of that, right? Like it's her pointing at things, saying what it is, he repeats it.
I mean, that's not a bad way to learn. So.
I mean, it's really like the only. I mean, like it's very different, right? He doesn't even have. I think that the reason because we don't like time skip, but as we go through the montage, we see he gets a lot better, like very fast.
Yeah, he's able to actually communicate. Like his inflection's still a little weird, but
yeah, but at the same time, you like people might be like, oh, that's a little too fast, but he's also like an orb god thingy that's literal job is to adapt to things.
Yeah, he was able to turn into a wolf instantaneously. I don't think we need to complain about growth speed here.
Now, one question we had from last week was answered, where we said like, and I think that someone might point this out. We said like, is he going to be able to turn into March now? And I think the guess was we said no. We were like, it's going to be more of a spiritual thing. I don't think he's actually going to turn into March. He turns into March.
Yeah.
First, I don't know. I don't know why he has to turn into March to climb a tree. The other guy would be just as good at climbing trees.
I think it's because he saw March climb a tree, so he knows how that works.
Maybe you think that he's like, well, wait, my other guy has just as many limbs and tree climbing ability.
I don't know. Maybe it's being small and nimble.
Maybe. Either way, it shows him. He climbs the tree at the one point just as March to get the fruit, and we see it's kind of like a reverse situation where he's now March in the tree, and the old lady's like begging for food on the ground, and he's using his memory of what happened before and throwing her food and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And because of that, she travels with him. She teaches him, and as we go forward, we see that they're slowly making their way to a like a small port town where then they can take a boat across and go to her hometown. Where she says that there's an old man who has like knowledge of everything, and he might be able to tell what he is, that kind of stuff. So they're there.
Yeah, he's a scholar / brewer, I think he's described as.
Yeah, so as we see them travel, he's learning stuff, and then at one point though, they're taking a nice nap, they're sleeping at night before they get to like the town, and then we see something coming out of the ground. Nice little vine sneaking up.
Yeah, it says something like someone's playing in my garden, and
then
proceeds to attack.
Yeah, just like tree branches right through Fushi, and as that happens, we see that it like steals his ability to transform into his human male form.
Yeah,
and then after that, like we see him turn into a wolf, and as he's about to, we see him turn into a wolf, and they're confused what's going on, and as he's about to fight, we see like time stopped, and the god figure that made him comes down and speaks to him and explains, being like, oh, he. This thing is like your mortal enemy in like a sense. It can take your forms. You can't even remember like having them, kind of thing. Like he's like, you can't even remember what you lost. You just know that you just lost something though. And he's like, if you want to get them back, you have to fight. And then time resumes, and it's a nice little fight between the two of them. And as he's fighting, and he loses the dog for the wolf form. Then he turns into Oniguma, and we even see the old lady walk up and like, oh, what's going on? He's like, don't come any closer. Like he's talking still as like Oniguma, seeing that nice. Nice ability to communicate now is quite nice. He can tell lady like back away, like this is dangerous.
Yeah.
He loses the bear form, and then the plant monster becomes like the bear, and then we see him go into his ultimate form though, the most powerful form he has, which is March.
Yeah. Also, the last form he has left, other than a rock.
Yes.
So
Well, listen, I would have loved to see him go into rock form. As he's flying towards the like heart of like the monster, he just turns into a rock and hits it. But we haven't seen him be rock in so long. But no, he turns into March. He realized there's like he's been told by this god person there's like a core to this. He sees the core after kind of opening it up when he's Oniguma, and as March, he does some sweet tree parkour and eventually hops in and tears it out. And,
yeah, which I want to note, the March form is like really freaking agile.
yeah, I mean, I think he's just really good, and children, they're pretty agile, right? They're So I guess he's just kind of like flipping over trees, dodging vines, like he's doing it all. He rips out the core, and upon like breaking it, he gets all of his like forms back, and then we see like in his mind he gets like the memory of getting them back because he kind of forgot about it.
Yeah,
which is quite nice. And then we see I think the god character talks to him again, basically being like kind of explaining what they are, but not really. In like a sense, he basically says this is like your mortal enemy. They're kind of like you, but like not like you. Like very vague kind of explanations.
Yeah, it's a failure of life that can't turn into an animal. Then he goes on to talk about how Fu-chan basically says like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "I'm your creator, and we're here to save the world," I think is what he said.
Yeah, something like that. We're here to like change the world or something. And then he's like, but he's like, I'll explain more to you later. Then he just vanishes. He's like, you're not ready to hear more kind of situation. So he vanishes.
He's a lot. Yeah, he just buggers off. But Fu-chan's just like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, Fu-chan's like, the old lady comes up like, what happened? And Fu-chan's like, I don't know. That was weird. And then they just go to sleep. I'm pretty sure that's what he says. He's like, that was weird. But yep. the next scene is just them on the boat. So they're heading back to her hometown.
I think the boat was before this. This is like they just walked to the town the next day.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, they were on the boat first, and then where he talks about how he doesn't know the boy's name. Mm-hmm. Then they camp for the night. Then they get attacked, and then they go to the town the next day.
Okay. And then when they show up in town, like, now I'm trying to mix up which was the next time because I saw what happened next time. Do we see anything from when they go into town?
They just show her open up the door. She starts calling for her lover or whoever it is, and they show the boy wearing the mask.
Oh, okay, yes. So he's obviously going to be an important character. It looks like the next episode, if you watch the next time, is mostly about him. He's in the opening and he's in the ending, and
yeah, I think we're getting another form.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what his story is with his like mask or what the fuck he is, but we'll find out more next time.
He's gonna end up dead.
Yeah, he's probably gonna end up dead. As much as I'd like to think that this is slowly gonna be, as we guess, like, is this gonna be Fu-chan like accumulating companions? It seems like no. It seems like it's gonna be he's accumulating
companions.
No, he's collecting them all right, but they ain't going with him though. So, I mean, we still don't even necessarily know that the thing has to die for him to become it. Like that's like.
Well, I mean, if he could turn into something alive, why wouldn't he have turned into Oniguma when he was fighting Oniguma? It had to be an even fight.
I mean, that's what you wonder, right? But at the same time, he wasn't like ultra intelligent at that point. Like it was just instinct.
It looked like he was trying to turn into him. So
yeah, I mean, there might be a story that maybe the thing has to be dead. That's why he was able to turn to a rock too. It's not alive.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll find that out as Fu-chan actually like learns to speak more and like be able to communicate. That's going to be interesting.
Yeah, no live, only dead.
Yeah, so that's going to be interesting. I think that I was actually kind of surprised we didn't actually see the old lady die in this episode. I was
thought she was going to get guffed.
I was almost positive she was just going to die like an old lady natural death. And then he was going to like turn into her, like get her as a form, and then go to her town, kind of thing, and then come in as her, and they'd be like, "Hey, it's you," and then he turned and be like, "Nope, not me."
No.
And then maybe he'd like use the communication to explain or whatever. Like, I thought that was going to happen, but I guess it makes it's easier for him to go into that town with her.
End. Yeah, like it's a lot easier for her because he wouldn't know who to go to.
Yeah, he would just walk around until someone recognizes him, maybe, because they're looking for her lover. So yeah, it was a good episode. It was very important in the sense where like we need Fushi to have better communication. It's already so much easier now that he has even like the base level.
Yeah, being able to just say, like, I don't know what happened, but that was weird.
Yeah, you just be able to actually communicate. Like, the sentence is relatively full, and he has a good grasp on it. It's just that, it's really just, if anything, his dialect and that kind of stuff is a little off. But, because he's more just using one word at a time to explain the sentence more than actually, like, using a full sentence in, like, an
it's like when you're on Instagram or TikTok and you see the people who've trained their dogs to use, like, those maps with the words on them.
Yeah. That's exactly what it is. But yeah, it was an important episode. I think next episode as we get into this like next little arc though, where we learn whatever the hell this mask kid's story is.
Yeah, because I remember in the opening there's something like fire around him.
Yeah, you like
so...
breathe fire or something. I'm like, what the fuck? Like is he a human? Like,
Or is this just like a mask mechanism that like lets him breathe fire because he wanted to be a dragon? This guy was like just really chill about it.
yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of questions because this world is like fantasy, but also sometimes doesn't seem as fantasy would be. So it's a very like weird line. So I'm like, is this kid just gonna be like a weird lizard guy who breathes fire? Like, what the hell? But I guess
and he based on the next time he's gonna fall in love with like what looked like almost like a little elf girl. So I don't know anymore.
Yeah, it's too hard to predict based off what's gonna happen next time. All I can say is this episode was really important because we get communication skills from Fushi, which, seeing as this story is about his journey, pretty important to have those kind of skills. And I think they're just gonna get a little bit better every single like arc, to the point where he'll be fully functioning, talking as he moves on, and has his companion collection and goes through different stories. Probably gonna have to see more of these like plant monster thingies, like failed Fushi things, go through, and he's got the fight.
I don't know if we will. Like, we might see a different version of it, but I think this was like a one-off.
I don't think we'll specifically see like a plant thing, but I think we'll see other situations of the same type of being.
Yeah, like maybe one that can only turn into animals, can't do inanimate objects or anything like that.
Yeah, like they're not necessarily all gonna like. It was almost implied like the guy said that this thing is like actively trying to steal your forms and stuff like that. So it could be possible that there's more later that are trying to do the same thing, but they could be at different stages or different levels of intelligence, or it gives us kind of like a villain instead of just having the story be about like each arc has its own kind of just villain based off that story. There's something, a little extra fantasy villain snuck in there somewhere. And then the questions about, this godlike character and what his task is with making Fushi, trying to save the world, destroy the world, change the world, whatever it is. Probably learn more in the future, but probably not for a little while.
Yeah, we're going to need a little bit. We're going to need another visit from God before we get that. So,
yeah. Either way, it was a very entertaining episode. If you're a fan of To Your Eternity, let us know down below. I always love the opening, too. I never skip the opening. It always reminds me so much of the Kingdom Hearts opening, so I have to listen to it. I'm expecting we're gonna get some really, really deep episodes as we get to like the end of the season, so I'm excited for that. So yeah, whatever you think about the series, let us know down below. Let us know if you're watching it. Let us know if you're a fan, and if you have any theories, you can of course put those down below as well, and we will probably comment back on them. We'll see if they come true in the end. But I think that is everything for this week's episodes. We talked about all of them. As we mentioned before too, we're about like the halfway mark for some of these seasons, or pretty close to. As always, if there's a show that you want us to talk about and enough people comment about it, we can always consider doing some swapping or adding something in or doing something on a rotational spot. So, if there's an anime like that, just comment it down below. There's no harm, even if it's something we decide not to do. At least we know that someone out there wants to see it. Or even if there's like an anime you started watching that's on our list, but you eventually dropped it because you're not feeling it, let us know down below. Just lets us kind of keep track of what people are watching, what people are liking. It's always important because we're trying to get as many people as possible.
Yeah, it's good to know why people are here and what exactly is pulling people in. So
yeah, and as always too, if you have anywhere that you can share this, we'd really appreciate that. As we mentioned in like the Vivy part, for instance, there's a lot of subreddits who we can't even post on anymore. So if you have like a Discord, or if you're like a mod in a subreddit, or you have any friends who like anime, of course, we'd appreciate if you wanted to give us a link. And of course, if you watch this, to like, comment, and subscribe, all that fun stuff. We passed 500 subs, so we got another 500 to go till we hit our 1,000 mark, which will be really cool because then we can start using stuff like polls and community tabs and all that kind of fun stuff. So that's our goal by the end of the year. So hopefully we can do that, because that'll make in future anime seasons, like doing our votes for which anime people want to watch. That'll make that a lot easier.
It'll be a dream at that point.
Yeah, it'll be fantastic. So yeah, if you watch this, obviously like, comment, and subscribe. That way we can hit that 1,000. You'll be there with us. And just let us know what you thought about this week's anime. I'll probably leave a pinned comment down below with some sort of weekly question. So if you can respond to that, leave a comment. It just helps with the algorithm. So maybe YouTube will recommend us to some more people. And I think other than that, you got any closing thoughts there, Jimmy? Anything important I missed?
No, that was everything. I always want to thank everyone who came by, and we appreciate everything you guys do for us.
Yeah,
so
and
just keep it up.
I'm not 100% sure, guys, how much longer we'll be doing the online format. You'll probably just one day come in and we won't be doing it anymore. So I guess for now we're going to keep up the quality as high as we can until we eventually get back to it. So thanks for sticking with us if there's been any technical difficulties at all. And I think other than that, guys, I've been Cam.
I've been Jimmy.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Take it easy, guys. We'll see you next week for episode number 37. Peace.
Peace.